Hey.
Hey, guys. Welcome to the pre-show for Unfilter 289. Setting up right now, just about time for overtime. I don't think Mr. Chase is en route yet, so I'll probably wait a bit. So I just got a few pre-show clips for you then. That's what that means. Pre-show clips for you. A couple of buttons to push here on my end, and then it's time to get going. If you'd like to join us in the official Unfilter chat room, it is irc.geekshed.net and then pound on hashtag Unfilter. And you can also just go to jblive.tv, and there's a player there if you'd like to join us. So this is our first episode of August. There's a lot to get into, and I wanted to start with just a couple of clips that I've set aside just for those of you who show up live and try to make some time to be here with us, because it helps energize the show. It keeps us going, and so I really appreciate your time to do that. So I put aside some clips just for you, and while we're waiting for Chase to get on the road, I'll play a few of them, because I have got plenty this week. That means there's a lot of stuff that didn't quite make it into the show, but plenty could have. Let's see, where should we start? There's a lot that we're going to expand on in the show. So some of these are like additional. So like I'll play another version of them, or I'll play like something where if you've watched this clip, it'll give you some background. So there's a lot of areas to start here. Let's start with one that was a little dry, but it seemed like it could lead to something kind of interesting. Judicial Watch has obtained the emails on what Peter Strzok got for security clearance and when he got it. Because in the case of a lot of these things, the timeline really matters. So let's start there. And then I've also got some clips on Giuliani and fighting Cohen, some Putin stuff, some Napolitano talking about the Rosenstein impeachment, more Cohen stuff, and some bloopers too, if we have time to get to that as well. So there is a lot of stuff for those of you who managed to show up live, so let's get into some of it right now. Let's start with this, the one that I felt was kind of dry, but probably important. This Judicial Watch.
Judicial Watch obtaining email messages from Peter Strzok showing he requested to keep his security clearance after being added to special counsel Robert Mueller's team. Something Judicial Watch says gave the Mueller probe special access to target President Trump. Joining me now, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. So, Tom, did it?
Oh, it sure did. Strzok wouldn't have asked for it if he didn't think it would be useful in his new job. He had to get approval from his supervisor, Bill Priestap, who agreed to it. So he wanted the authority to issue national security letters, which essentially are secret requests for information that fall short of needing or court approval. He also wanted, and he said that this was essential, which is very unusual. He wanted the ability to declassify information. He wanted to keep that ability. Why on earth would he need that ability in the
Why would he want to keep stuff secret, he says?
New position? You know, and Mr. Strzok is not an honest guy in the sense he was removed by Mr. Mueller over these text messages. Mueller didn't tell anyone about it for 4 months. Then he was removed, walked out of the FBI headquarters after the IG report showed more anti-Trump bias. You know, so given what he was doing and the lack of trust we have in what he was doing, we should be asking why was it he needed this essential effort, this essential power to declassify information, issue national security letters. What was he doing for Mueller's team? I mean,
Leaking?
That's the big question, and that the corruption around Strzok has infected the Mueller operation. Few want to talk about it. Mueller needs to be asked directly about it.
And we asked that question in the context of all of those anti-Trump text messages that have now been revealed between Peter Strzok and his then lover, Lisa Page. So then is this, Tom, are you able to conclude from your own research, is this the smoking gun? Does this prove bias on the part of the FBI towards the Trump campaign?
He was asking for unusual authority to use for the benefit of Mr. Mueller. You know, this is why the president's frustrated. He sees Peter Strzok doing these odd things, being an anti-Trumper, and no wonder he's calling on Jeff Sessions to shut the Mueller operation down. When you have folks like that, folks like Mueller, who obviously was behind the FISA warrants that are so outrageous, and having this agenda against Trump, getting this special dispensation to take all the authority he had as #2 counterintelligence official and move it into the Mueller operation for who knows what purposes. We can't trust what he was doing. So emails like this lead to more questions.
So, and you're referencing one of the tweets from the president this morning saying that the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, should stop the rigged witch hunt right now. He sent that one before the latest of a series of tweets, Tom, in which he says this: Russian collusion with the Trump campaign, one of the most successful in history, is a total hoax. The Democrats paid for the phony and discredited dossier, which was, along with Comey, McCabe, Strzok, and his lover, the lovely Lisa Page, used to begin the witch hunt. Disgraceful. Final thoughts from you.
And the president's right on target. There's no evidence of collusion. Mueller has issued 3 indictments about what the Russians were doing. None of those indictments reference no collusion with any Americans. In many ways, Mueller's job's over.
Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton joining us this morning. Thank you.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think that's true. All right, so what else do we got in here that's in the interesting? How about, while we're kind of on this train, why don't we play a little Giuliani?
We're also following some breaking news in the investigation into President Trump's former attorney and longtime fixer, Michael Cohen. Tonight, Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, is confirming that the joint defense agreement between Trump and Cohen is no longer in effect. Now, that agreement would have allowed attorneys for both men to discuss aspects of the case. That no longer happening. This news comes just one day after CNN exclusively reported that Cohen might be looking to make a deal with special counsel Robert Mueller. Sources tell us Cohen now alleges Trump knew in advance about that infamous Trump Tower meeting back in 2016. That's when top Trump campaign officials met with Russians who were promising dirt on Hillary Clinton. Cohen's claim that Trump knew in advance about this meeting would completely contradict repeated denials by Trump and his legal team, even the White House press secretary, who have said Trump had no idea. With us to discuss this breaking development, 2 attorneys. Michael Moore is a former U.S. attorney, and Renato Mariotti is a CNN legal analyst and former federal prosecutor. So, Renato, Michael Flynn, I recall, ended his joint defense agreement with Trump before he flipped. Is that what Cohen is about to do you think?
Well, it's certainly what Cohen wants to do. He has telegraphed it pretty obviously. He has not been coy at all about his newfound desire to turn on the president. The question is just whether prosecutors are interested in his cooperation, whether he can hammer out a deal. But it definitely appears headed in that direction. At this point, Cohen has been, I think, pretty publicly critical of the president, both himself and through his attorneys.
Michael, this investigation into Cohen is being led by the Southern District of New York, not Mueller. So how would Mueller end up being involved in any possible plea deal with Cohen?
You know, these things don't happen in a vacuum. In Mueller's case, just as if you had a prosecutor in one district handling a case and they had a cooperating witness who was charged with a crime in another district, there would be some discussion back and forth about what they might expect and sort of the timing of pleas and terms of plea agreements, cooperation, that type of thing. So nothing that's happening is happening in a vacuum. I think it was a smart thing to have the case handled out of the Southern District of New York. I don't think there's any doubt, and there shouldn't have been any doubt for some period of time, that Cohen was going to flip. I mean, we've been talking about that now for some time, and here he goes, you know. What's interesting, and I think what we'll find, is that Bob Mueller probably already has the corroborating information that's going to be necessary to move forward on Cohen's testimony. And that is, my guess is that he's looked at phone records. He may have matched the anonymous number that was dialed off of there. He's probably talked to other witnesses. They may have looked at logs about who was in the building at the time or who was in the building beforehand. They may have looked to see, you know, at emails. We don't know. Maybe Hope Hicks had some information about it that we just don't know yet. So my guess is that corroboration piece has already been made, and now on to the races for Michael Cohen, who at least is getting good legal advice to watch out for himself, because Trump's pretty clearly indicated that he's going to watch out for nobody but himself.
Renato, I want to ask you more about the idea of corroborating evidence, because sources say Cohen doesn't have any hard evidence, such as recordings, just his word. But he says other people were in that room when Trump was told about this meeting. Does someone else need to corroborate Cohen's account for that evidence to be strong enough?
Well, it certainly wouldn't hurt, and what prosecutors typically would do is try to question all of those people who are in the room. And even though a lot of those people are obviously going to be very loyal to the president, as we're starting to see in this investigation, when you're facing potential prison time, when you're questioned under oath, when you have your own lawyer and have a grand jury subpoena or are in for questioning with the FBI, that changes things. And with that many people in the room, it's very hard for me to believe that all of them are going to stand with the president and not be willing to talk about what happened. So I would expect at some point we are going to see somebody else in the room talk about what happened, and the question will be, how close their account is to Cohen's, and then, as Michael said, what other corroborating evidence there is, whether it's phone calls or other things that can help corroborate at least some portion of what Cohen is saying.
And we know that.
All right, that's enough. That's about all I can take. Oh! Okay, so it's just about time for overtime. Mr. Chase is indeed getting his face in the race that is the drive home. That wasn't okay. All right, that wasn't too bad, right? I mean, it could. All right, it was awful. But what's more awful is they're still going. They're still going for like another 2 minutes. Hey, I just fast forwarded 2 minutes. They're still going. We got more to watch. We got more, but we got a big overtime we got to do. Chase's face is in the race. And he's inbound. So let me get the OT queued up.
Congressman Brett Sherman, who, like Congressman Issa, also sits on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Great to see you today. Boy, this is big news with Facebook. First of all, your take on those 32 pages for that inauthentic behavior. What's being looked at that you know about?
Well, Russia's interfering. They're continuing to interfere. We can't minimize it. I think my colleague, Mr. Isaac, at first analogized these pages to the New York Times. They're not the New York Times. They're Putin. And we have not sanctioned Russia for its interference in our 2016 election. We have sanctions on them for their own abuses of human rights, but we haven't done anything to stop them from, to make it plain, to draw that line in the sand that they'd better not interfere in the 2018 election, and in fact, that's what they're doing.
Congressman Sherman, I was under the impression from reporting and what I've read that those sanctions were upcoming. Is that not the case?
We haven't done it so far. We didn't draw a red line in Helsinki, and unfortunately on a party line vote, the Republicans rejected spending money on vote tabulation security.
I like how she did that there. She undercut his entire argument, saying, so it's incoming. You can only make this argument while it's still inbound. And then he's got to make a statement about it and then pivot.
And so a lot of people are going to wonder whether their vote was counted in the United States or counted in St. Petersburg.
So that's one element in all of this. But these ads, Facebook now saying that it is in the very early stages of its investigation and this coordinated inauthentic behavior. Still trying to get an idea of what that means moving forward. I'm hearing the words Kremlin and Russia. The vice chair, Mark Warner, had mentioned that. He said, look, my team and I, his staff, have already drilled down on this. They've been briefed. And then now this from Representative Adam Schiff, the ranking member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, just moments ago, quote, today's announcement from Facebook demonstrates that what we long feared, that malicious foreign actors bearing the hallmark of previously identified Russian influence campaigns continue to abuse and weaponize social media platforms to influence the U.S. electorate. What needs to be done in your estimation at this point? Does the federal government step
Adding
in?
music
There's
for
been
drama.
resistance.
I think you like a little more drama.
You want to have freedom of speech.
We want freedom of speech if Russia, as they do, they have RTV, people could switch to that right now. Please don't. That's with the Russians speaking with their own voice, admitting that it is Russia.
All right, it's not as effective. Was I seeing some screen tearing there? Was I seeing some gosh darn screen tearing there? Did you guys see any gosh darn screen tearing there? Would you let me know if you saw any gosh darn screen tearing? Because I sure wouldn't like to see any gosh darn screen tearing. Let me go double check on that real quick. Gosh darn it, I don't think I have Forest Comp Pipeline on. How did that happen? All right, let me fix that real quick. There we go. Shut the front door. Exactly. Gosh darn it. Gosh darn it. You know? Gosh darn it. I think it's time for overtime. What do you guys say? You ready? I mean, if you don't want to do it, we don't have to. We could just call it a day. If you'd rather just call it a day, that's fine. We can do that too. Well, Mojan man there. I mean, I always say Mojan. He wants to do it, so I think we'll do it. All right, let's do it. All right, let's do it then. Let's do it. So let's see, how's Chase doing? I think with Chase's current pace, I wish I had with Chase in the race in his current pace, I think he'll be here after the overtime, well after the overtime finishes. So we can kind of take our time with the overtime if we want. Take our time with the overtime. There's a lot of, I got a lot of the punnies today, don't I? All right. Well, I have to get up in 6 hours, so you better do something. All right, Veritunda. Well, then just for you, good buddy. See, do I have no more dramatic music? Dang, I was hoping I could cue up the dramatic music for that. All right, let's get going then.
If there's a need for a rescue mission, when the world is threatened, and the world needs help, it calls on America.
Yeah. Okay. See,
and that's the story.
Now I'm ready. Man, Barry can get me fired. You know, remember how we used to do the fired up, ready to go? I don't know if you've been around that long, but we used to play a clip of him saying, and then you know what? I started to get fired up. But then YouTube started pulling us down. But it almost, if anybody could find that, I'd almost like to have it so I could use it for next week for $2.90. So if you have if you know what I'm talking about, it's a clip of Barry saying, you know, I wasn't feeling very good, but then started talking to this old lady, and she said, I'm fired up. And I realized, you know what, I'm fired up. I started going around telling everybody, I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I'm fired up, ready to go. If you know what I'm talking about, I'd love that clip again. And also, crap, now that I've hit record, now I remember that I needed a clip. I don't know if I have it. Oh, well. I used to have the Alex Jones Says Shit clip, and I wanted to play that for the overtime. But, so if you know what clip I'm talking about, I would love to have that. Okay, let's get started. It's overtime time, and it begins in a 3 and a 2. Don't believe the fake news. The show's not over yet. It's time for overtime.
Reclaiming my time.
Thank you to our new patrons. Staying woke over patreon.com/unfilter. Ironically, letting me use that phrase for them, even though they know it's used ironically. I also appreciate that. Thank you to Keith, Brian, Mutation666, Brandon, and C. Sapieth. You are our 5 new subs for our Patreon. Over at patreon.com/unfilter. Unfilter. What? That's true. Thank you for supporting this here show, and this here overtime be dedicated to you, because we appreciate you, and we appreciate all you patrons. Always have, always will, at patreon.com/unfiltered. Thank you. Thank you for doing what you do and making this show possible. Wow, nearly 290 episodes. So let's start things off with a bit of complaining by CNN, which seems to be their new favorite hobby. Whenever they're not talking directly about Donald Trump or Russia, they're bitching about Donald Trump and how he treats the media.
Certainly the Republican leadership in the House and the Senate, they don't want a government shutdown specifically before the midterm elections in November. They don't want it afterwards. I quickly want to go to Jeff Zeleny, our White House correspondent. You're there in the East Room. Give us your take on what we just heard.
Well, clearly the Iran meeting without preconditions, as you've all been discussing, is a major headline, as well as the government shutdown. But I do think another headline is indeed what was not asked here at this news conference. Clearly on the president's mind through his own words, his own tweets over the weekend, he is indeed consumed, at least in part, by the special counsel's investigation. And those questions were not asked. We tried asking the questions at the end of the news conference if he does feel betrayed by Michael Cohen, of course, his longtime lawyer, confidant, and protector.
Mr. Trump, do you feel betrayed by Michael Cohen? Do you feel betrayed by Michael Cohen? Wonder why he wouldn't call on you. I don't actually think that happened, but he knows that's how you behave, young man.
He turned briefly the president, but did not answer the questions. And Wolf, we should say that the limitation of questions, two on each side, is a way, of course, to protect the White House from.
Oh, and their feed gets cut there for a moment.
Of questions we call news of day, the biggest headline maybe out there. And of course, there are many questions to ask the president. But it is true, Wolf, I can tell you that White House aides were asking some reporters here today what they plan to ask the president. Now, this is not necessarily untypical. You probably remember this as well from when you covered the White House for so many years. Administrations do ask reporters what they plan to ask.
So let's just pause there for a second. Are you grokking what he's laying down for you? Do you understand that the president knows, like Obama and Trump, has a fair idea of what the journalist is going to ask him before he even calls on he or she? Isn't that remarkable? It's all scripted, folks. It's not tightly scripted, but it's all roughly scripted. And that, I think, is a big takeaway from this clip.
This is not necessarily untypical. You probably remember this as well from when you covered the White House for so many years. Administrations do ask reporters what they plan to ask. Most reporters I know do not answer that question besides of news of day.
You know who is answering those questions? The ones that want to get called on.
I always say, whatever the president has spoken about, maybe tweeting about, those are fair game for questions. We did not tell the White House what we plan to ask today, and of course we were not called on here. So, Wolf, it is clear, I think one of the headlines here at this press conference is the fact that some of the biggest controversies and clouds hanging over this administration were not asked today by the two U.S. journalists who were called on by the White House, Wolf.
That is some serious butthurt. That is right there at the end. He gets sort of like a droopy dog about it.
We're not asked today by the two U.S. journalists who were called on by the White House, Wolf.
Yeah. He hangs his head in shame. Maybe if you asked better questions, if you asked any new questions at all. I'm not trying to defend shutting down on the press, because that's not good either. But it's just inevitable. I've been talking about this literally for the entire year. Really, it's actually been talking about this since the moment Trump was elected and Spicy Sean went out there and threw his ding-dong down on the table, thump style, and just laid into him on the crowd size, clearly trying to say, I'm the big dog, we're going to set the agenda, it's a new sheriff in town. That was the obvious message, and it's been building since then. It's been obvious. It's patently obvious that if you are a douchebag dickhead who asks the same damn questions all the time in an antagonizing fashion in an attempt to trick the president into saying something embarrassing, or Sarah Sanders, they're going to stop calling on you. You have to ask something new, something relevant, perhaps something that's related to the subject at hand of the press conference. They're probably out there trying to message something very specifically, and here's the fundamental issue, and they know this. They know this because this is their business. They know this is how it works. And here's the fundamental issue that I'll explain, because if you're not in media, it's not necessarily obvious if you're outside of media, and you don't have to be that far into it to really see it. I'll explain it. It'll make total sense. They know this. The fundamental issue that the White House is trying to manage is the message of the day. They want whatever the message of the day is to be the president's agenda for that time. So if the message is he's meeting with a diplomat, if the message is he's going to meet with Iran with no conditions, they don't want the message to be about Michael Cohen's damn tapes. They don't want the message to be about Stormy Daniels or the Putin soccer ball having a microphone inside of it. That's not what they want the message of the day to be about. And if you ask him those questions, even if he doesn't answer, of course he will answer, but even if he doesn't answer, you now have a soundbite of you asking the question and the president not responding, or more likely, responding in a way that's outrageous. And now that's the major narrative for the next 48 hours. And the only way to mitigate and manage that problem is to force the people there in the press pool to stay on topic and focus on the message of the day, which in this case was meeting with Iran with no preconditions. They know that's how it works. He even kind of says it in that clip. If you were to rewatch it, if you were to rewind back, he says it. He acknowledges it. But they don't care. And it's not like the White House is innocent when it comes to working with the press. They are obviously playing hardball. And your good buddy, Rachel Madcow, has definitely noticed.
We can report tonight that the White House video of this exchange has also skillfully cut out that question from the Reuters reporter as if it didn't happen. So I'll show you them back to back here. I'll show you the real one first, and then I'll show you what the White House has posted online instead. Here first is the real one.
Options abound, and they all can be found in an
President Putin, did you want President Trump to win the election, and did you direct any of your officials to help him do that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
That's the real one. Now watch what the White House has posted online instead.
Options abound, and they all can be found in an appropriate legal framework.
And did you direct any of your officials to help him do that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
They just dropped it out.
What? I actually didn't catch it.
First part of his question, President Putin, did you want President Trump to win the election? They just dropped that out.
But they left in the part where he asked if he directed any officials to help him do that, which is way the fuck more damning.
What the White House has disappeared from the official U.S. government record of that meeting, both in print and in their video of the meeting, is President Putin answering in the affirmative when he's asked if he wanted Trump to win the election.
Yeah. And then when he asked, did you direct an official to help him do that, he says, even in that edit, he says, yes, I did. Which the fucking implication of that would be he wants Putin, or Putin wants Trump to win. That's the obvious implication. If he didn't want the man to win, why would he then say, yes, I directed someone to do it? Either way that edit works, it still says he supported Trump. There's literally no hiding of information here. The end result is exactly the same.
Just for kicks, if you want to check out the Russian government version of this, their transcript, their supposed transcript of this event. In the Russian transcript, Jeff Mason from Reuters not only doesn't ask his full question, Jeff Mason of Reuters doesn't even exist.
What's incredible, and Veritunda is pointed out in the chat room, is we played the full thing last week, and in there it's clear that Putin is responding to, yes, I wanted him to win. He's not even really answering the did you direct an official. He's just responding, likely because of translation, right? He gets the first part of the question and he starts answering it before the guy's even finished the second part of the question. So it's just not a great, very clean answer to begin with. And the edit, regardless of what it is, to try to clean that up, doesn't change the message in any substantial way that I can see. And it's clearly that what happens is Putin starts answering, maybe because it's an awkward question, before the guy even finishes, almost as a way to like shut him up and just start answering, like just to run him over. That seems to be what happened. But you know what? I don't know. I'm not a multi-million-dollar, yearly staffed news actor that reads Twitter all day.
Just a quick note on behalf of the press corps. Last month there were only 3 briefings with you, totaling under an hour. If at some point in the next month or two, obviously there's travel concerns, but if you can, we'd appreciate it if you were able to give us some more time. There are a lot of issues we'd like to cover.
So he's bitching that they haven't had as many press briefings as they would like, and he's asking for more. I know the mics are bad.
One of those, first off, is the president's tweet this morning about the Russia program's direction to the Attorney General Jeff Sessions, asking him to end the Mueller probe right now. The president said a few weeks ago that he did, or a few months ago, sorry, that he was not going to intervene in the Department of Justice's handling of that investigation. Does that tweet this morning mark a change in posture by the president?
It's not an order. It's the president's opinion, and it's ridiculous that all of the corruption and dishonesty that's gone on with the launching of the witch hunt, the president has watched this process play out, but he also wants to see it come to an end, as he stated many times, and we look forward to that happening.
On different topics here, you mentioned that the transfer of these remains marked North Korea, the North Korean leader fulfilling his commitment to the president as agreed in Singapore. There's a report yesterday that North Korea is still assembling ICBMs, and as well as the Pentagon says that it's not yet possible to verify that the remains that have been transferred back are in fact human or American. How does that meet sort of the test of North Korea fulfilling its commitment that it agreed to in Singapore?
I'm not going to comment on the first part of your question on any potential intelligence matter. In terms of the remains, we have the best of the best that have been working over the last several weeks on this process. We'll keep you updated on it, but we feel comfortable in the assessment that they've made up until this point. John.
Sarah, on the next proposed tranche of tariffs against China.
All right, let's stop here. I see a request in the chat room to play the clip of Putin answering, the full clip that's not edited by Rachel Maddow. I will do that. And, I noticed I was wrong. It wasn't last week. It was 2 weeks ago. It was 2/87 that we covered that. So I do have that clip here, and I'll play it in its entirety.
Found in an appropriate
Did you want
legal
President
framework.
Trump to win the election, and did you direct any of your officials to help him do that?
Да, я хотел, чтобы он выиграл. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Because he talked about bringing the U.S.-Russia relationship back to normal.
That is the full statement, which is clearly an answer to, did you want Donald Trump to win? And there it is without edit. So does that solve the big controversy? No. I guess that's something the media can't do. Maybe they should look into Dropbox. They could store that in Dropbox. No? I like that, though, that it's not an order to Sessions. It's his opinion. Speaking of the Mueller probe and the dossier and the folks that wrote that dossier, Fusion GPS.
Breaking tonight, evidence that both campaigns in 2016 wanted some dirt on each other and were willing to get it in some sources from Russia. But now there's a judge who wants to know exactly how the whole thing worked on the Clinton side of the equation. The dossier, as we know, was funded in part by the Clinton campaign and used sources in Russia who gave information to Christopher Steele, much of which he said was unverifiable. So on the Trump side, you've got the Trump Tower meeting in June of 2016. And tonight, former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen reportedly dropping more bombs. Now he says that the president knew all along about that meeting, even though Cohen said the opposite in the past. So here's what the president said about it today. I did not, in caps, know of the meeting with my son, Don Jr. Sounds to me like someone is trying to make up stories. He even retained Bill and Crooked Hillary's lawyer. Gee, I wonder if they helped him make the choice. Here now, Greg Jarrett, Fox News anchor.
So there you go. There's that. We don't need Jarrett's analysis, but that is the essence of what's going on with Fusion GPS. And then really the dossier, remember, it was a product that they were selling.
The firm that put together the infamous Trump-Russia dossier has been summoned to a court hearing. A judge in the U.S. ordered Fusion GPS to give sworn testimony in a lawsuit brought by a Russian tech guru, that of Alexei Gubarev. He has filed a defamation suit against the dossier's author, along with the media company BuzzFeed that released it. Gubarev claims he's been falsely accused in the dossier of being a Russian intelligence officer. Well, the whole Trump-Russia dossier, also known as the Steele dossier, is a private intelligence report by former MI6 officer Christopher Steele. It contains allegations of collusion between Donald Trump's presidential campaign and the Russian government. The dossier was published in full by BuzzFeed last January. Samira Khan has more.
Well, Fusion GPS will now have to answer questions regarding its role in compiling the Steele dossier, the very dossier that made headlines worldwide for its unverified, salacious allegations about Donald Trump before his inauguration. Now, lawyers will be able to ask Fusion GPS representatives about its clients, how they verified their claims, and why they hired Christopher Steele. And they'll also have the opportunity to find out the nature of the firm's interactions with government officials and media outlets. Now, the Russian entrepreneur's lawyer who filed these claims against BuzzFeed and Steele called it a victory.
This ruling gave us everything that we'd had hoped for. After a year of trying everything they could think of to avoid being deposed, Fusion is finally going to have to sit down and answer our questions.
Fusion GPS hasn't revealed any information regarding the dossier, claiming that it would violate confidentiality clauses and free speech rights. But for some background, the firm was hired in April 2016 by the Clinton campaign and the DNC to investigate Trump's alleged links to Russia for a fee of about $1.8 million. Then Fusion hired a former MI6 operative, Christopher Steele, and then BuzzFeed published the dossier even though it wasn't verified. Now, Fusion GPS will have until August 31st to sit in for the deposition, but it's possible that the revelations that'll come out of that hearing will be more scandalous than the dossier itself.
I had always read that it was actually initiated by perhaps the Bush campaign or somebody that was anti-Trump on the Republican side, and then when they decided to fold in, the Clinton group and the DNC via like this lawyer office bought it up and continued the contract. So they didn't say that in the original source, but that was always my understanding. I wanted to go a little deeper on Manafort's money. You know, that $60 million is a lot of money.
The special counsel Robert Mueller's team says that indicted former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort made $60 million from his political consulting work in Ukraine. Let's go to our justice correspondent, Evan Perez. Evan, explain why this revelation about how much money Manafort made is important.
Well, Wolf, this is a revelation that came just in the last couple of hours, and we're talking hours away from when the jury selection is set to begin in Alexandria, Virginia. The prosecutors for Robert Mueller and the defense are fighting over whether or not the jury will get to see 50 or so exhibits. These are exhibits that the Manafort team says are prejudicial, that they're irrelevant to the charges. Remember that Manafort is going on trial on bank and tax fraud charges, and so the Manafort team wants these exhibits and this evidence not shown to the jury. The government responded this afternoon saying that this is evidence that shows that Manafort made $60 million working for the Ukrainian government, that this is exhibits, these are emails, these are memos, these are photos that they show, quote, show the full sweep of Manafort's Ukrainian work. Essentially, they say that this is evidence that's going to be corroborating evidence for some of the witnesses that are going to describe what Manafort was doing and why he was using these bank accounts in Cyprus and in other foreign locations to hide money that he did not report to the IRS. So this is very, very key evidence, the government says, to this trial, Wolf.
And as you point out, his trial gets underway with jury selection tomorrow in suburban Virginia, right outside Washington, D.C. What can we expect?
Well, I'll tell you what not to expect. We're not expecting the word Russia. We're not expecting the word collusion. We're not probably hardly even hearing the name of President Trump in this trial. The government and the defense have both agreed that they're going to keep this focused on the bank fraud, the tax charges. And look, this is a tall order for Manafort. This is an uphill climb for them because he either filed paperwork saying that he owned these bank accounts or he did not. And what we know is he did not. So what we expect is that Manafort's team is going to say, look, these accounts didn't belong to him. And so this is why the government's evidence, which is going to show all the work that he was doing and why he was getting paid in these foreign locations, is very important. So we expect 3 weeks of trial, Wolf. And again, a lot of this is going to be squarely focused on the tax and bank fraud charges. Remember, Manafort also faces charges here in Washington, D.C. That one has a lot more to do with the allegations that he was working for the Ukrainian government and failed to register as a foreign agent, even as he was working for the Trump campaign.
And let's not forget the president, as the candidate, picked Manafort to be his campaign chairman. Evan Perez.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Phil Mudd. What does all this tell you about how Robert Mueller and his team are working?
This is like for a former pro wrestling fan, the steel cage match. Nobody's going to walk out of this, the government or Manafort, without some blood on him. What's happening?
All right, you know how I feel about that analysis. I'm good. I'll do the analysis around here, unless it's Tucker Tuckerson. He's going to go after the Southern Poverty Law Center for apparently having secret ties to the FBI.
Well, as you already know, if you've been paying any attention at all, the Southern Poverty Law Center is an entirely fraudulent enterprise. The organization has nothing to do with the South or with poverty. It's a left-wing political group that uses hate crime designations to target its ideological enemies and to crush people. In 2012, the SPLC inspired a shooting attack on the Family Research Council by labeling the innocuous Christian organization a hate group. Just last month, the SPLC paid $3.3 million for falsely calling the Quilliam Foundation, quote, anti-Muslim extremists. We could go on. The Southern Poverty Law Center lies. They are utterly reckless, and they're totally dishonest. With that in mind, it was shocking to discover, as jaded as we are, and this show has discovered it exclusively, that the FBI has a long history of collaborating with the Southern Poverty Law Center. In 2009, for example, the FBI called the SPLC, quote, a well-known, established, and credible organization that monitors domestic terrorism in the U.S. The SPLC repeatedly has been allowed to brief FBI personnel on alleged terror threats to this country. Disturbingly, though, this relationship is ongoing, if you can believe it. Despite multiple requests from this program, the FBI has refused to describe the extent of its collaboration with the SPLC, we've asked repeatedly, or even to explain why it continues to work with a group like that. Instead, we've received meaningless and mindless boilerplate statements like this one, quote, for many years, the FBI has engaged with various organizations, both formally and informally. Such outreach is a critical component of the FBI's mission, and we welcome information from these organizations on any possible violation of civil rights, hate crimes, or other potential crimes or threats. We do, however, evaluate our relationships with these groups as necessary to ensure the appropriateness of any interaction.
Oh, of course.
Mindless pap that does not answer the question. We can report tonight that Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida has sent a letter to FBI leadership asking them to explain their relationship with the SPLC, which is obviously very troubling, to put it mildly. Then tonight, the DOJ gave us another statement. This one said, quote, the Attorney General has directed the FBI to reevaluate their relationships with groups like this, the SPLC, to ensure the FBI does not partner with any group that discriminates, end quote, as the SPLC certainly does. Majid Nawaz is the founder of Quilliam. He just received that settlement we mentioned from the SPLC after they libeled him as an extremist. He's also the author of a tremendous book called Radical, My Journey Out of Islamist Extremism.
Oh, and we'll stop there. You know how I do, and you know it's in the supporters sync most of the time. So if you do want it, you can finish it up there. But I have recently taken to flying a bit more because it's just something I've started working into the deal. Like, hey, you want me to come out there and help you? That's great. Pay for my flight or pay for my gas, because either way it's just too expensive for me to sustain it. But it's something that I've been enjoying more and more because I get to meet with audience members and whatnot everywhere I go. And so I've decided to sign up for the TSA pre-check, put my fingerprints in there and all that kind of stuff. Although, to be honest with you, the government already had my fingerprints because twice now I have had to go through security clearance to work at a school district. So they already had it. So I figured, all right, let's do this. And so I go in there and I give them, my answers and my fingerprints. And now I'm in waiting to become TSA pre-check. And I'm just starting to get comfortable with the idea of flying more if I can reduce all of the dehumanizing steps as much as possible. So if I can go somewhere and park my vehicle when I go down there that's nice and they have a good shuttle program, if I can go through TSA pre-check and not have to take my shoes off and my belt off and take my laptop out and my switch out and have them confiscate my vape pen and all those things, go through TSA pre-check in 10 minutes, that kind of stuff, and then maybe even look getting like a lounge membership somewhere. You know, those kinds of options make life a little bit easier when traveling, and they reduce the friction for me because it's not the actual flying part that I mind. I really have no problem with that or with the plane crashing. As long as my family's not on there, it's just me, have at it. Sorry, everybody, have at it. It's not that part that concerns me. It's the dehumanizing nature and the blatant security theater of the TSA. And the fact that I'm supposed to respect these people and appreciate them, and they're supposed to be checking my crotch and scanning my whole body, and it's all for show. Meanwhile, everybody I know is smuggling pot through there. They've got crap in their bag. It's like unbelievable the stuff that makes it through the TSA. But my microphone gets caught. Yeah, it's so frustrating. So if I could reduce that aspect of it, I don't mind flying so much. That was until I heard this story.
The program is called Quiet Skies. Federal air marshals following 2 to 3 dozen Americans every day through airports and onto planes, even sitting right next to them. The marshals told to report back if the traveler changes clothes in a restroom, perspires excessively, fidgets, trembles, or stares, uses a phone or computer.
Okay, so I do change my clothes in the restroom on occasion. That is something I've done because I was flying from Texas where it was 113 degrees, and I was coming back to Seattle where it was 58, 60 degrees. And I had a different outfit. And I needed to change, too, because quite frankly, I stunk. So I needed to change anyway. So I went in the bathroom and I changed. And then you know what I came out? I came out and fidgeted in my chair a little bit and then used my phone. And then later, a computer.
Perspires excessively, fidgets, trembles, or stares, uses a phone or computer. Passengers are selected for monitoring if their foreign travel and other factors raise concerns, including criminal records, curious financial transactions, email or phone numbers linked to terror suspects. Among the passengers followed a businesswoman who was in Turkey, even a flight attendant.
You have over 2 million people a day that currently travel in and around the United States. You're looking for a threat that's so small, it's less than a needle in the haystack.
The TSA tells NBC News the primary purpose of this program is to ensure passengers and flight crew are protected during air travel. We recently talked to TSA Chief David Pekoski about the air marshals.
For passengers, I think they should feel very safe and secure that we have a Federal Air Marshal Service that does provide that in-flight security.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
But travelers are never told they've been followed, their activities documented.
No, why would you tell them? That ruins the surprise. That ruins it.
Raising privacy concerns.
It should go without saying that government agents shouldn't be monitoring travelers without a good reason for doing so.
And the Air Marshals Union complains the program is a waste of time. The American public would be better served if these marshals were instead assigned to airport screening and check-in areas so that active shooter events can be swiftly ended.
So there you go. The new TSA Quiet Skies program, quietly spying on you with no permission and no notification. Quiet Skies. Maybe they're just freaking out because they're pretty sure all of you kids going to be walking around with 3D printed guns.
Tomorrow morning, the sun will be shining, the birds will be singing, and anyone will be able to legally download instructions to 3D print their own fully functional plastic gun.
Freak out!
Including the AR-15, a weapon of war. What could possibly go wrong? This invitation to chaos brought to you by the Trump administration. You heard that right. In a nation with 5% of the world's population, but
personally brought to you by Donald Trump personally is teaching little children how to print out ARs and handguns.
You heard that right. In a nation with 5% of the world's population, but more than a third of its mass shootings, the Trump administration is allowing anyone to print a gun without the hassle of background checks, registration, or any of the usual trappings of law enforcement.
I got a problem I got a news alert for you, buddy. Big news alert, CNN style, actually.
This is CNN breaking news.
That's coming for everything. All of the things are going to be 3D printed. Guns are just the tip of the iceberg, as they say.
How did this happen?
God, they're so dumb.
Glad you asked.
Oh, and they are so cheesy, too.
In 2013, self-described crypto anarchist Cody Wilson, came up with a 3D printed gun he calls the Liberator.
Yeah, and all because of this one guy now. We're going to have 3D printed guns, guys.
He posted the plans online and estimates that more than 100,000 people downloaded it before the Obama State Department made him take it down.
Oh, fuck. Obama came in and he saved the day. Obama saved the day, you guys. If it wasn't for Obama, then there would be these 3D printed guns all over the street.
He's a jackass.
Under regulations called ITAR. Wilson then sued the government, alleging the move violated his free speech. It wasn't about the gun, he said. It was about his right to disseminate the plans. Now, the lawsuit against the Obama administration languished for 5 years. Cody never even thought he would win. But suddenly, this past June, the Trump administration settled the case. It even paid Wilson 40 grand in legal fees for his trouble. That's from you, the taxpayer. And thanks to that, guns like these you can print at home are going back up online August 1st.
Just so you know, have at it, everybody. Now you know.
Now, supporters argue this doesn't mean much.
Because people who weren't already enthusiasts, they wouldn't have known? Of course they would have known. Of course they would already know. So people who follow this market already knew. This piece does nothing but essentially native advertise the fact that you can go print a gun now. That's what they're doing. They think they're warning you. They're advertising to you. Because the people who would be interested really, they would already know, so they're not informing them. They're either just trying to outrage you or maybe for some reason sell you.
We're always allowed to assemble their own guns for personal use, and the cost of a 3D printer is prohibitive anyway. But make no mistake. The gun lobby is ecstatic.
That's right.
The NRA calls 3D printed guns symbolic of, quote, freedom and innovation. And it worked overtime to kill an effort to add 3D printed guns to the Undetectable Firearms Act. And don't forget that earlier this year, after the Parkland school shooting, support for stricter gun laws hit a record 70% in a CNN poll.
My millennials, stay woke.
Even gun rights groups have said that the focus should be on restricting people with mental illness or certain types of criminal records from getting a gun. This policy shift could erase all those efforts at finding common ground by providing the ultimate DIY loophole and insulting common sense in the process.
Nailed it right there at the end. Just insulting common sense. You know, but not all news presenters have that energy. You know, they don't all have a good day. And I don't know if you classify Alex Jones as a news presenter, but he's having a bad day. I know exactly what Alex Jones is going through right now. I've been there. I've had my videos blocked on YouTube. I've had my podcast pulled from Spotify. I understand the pain that Alex Jones is going through. I just don't quite freak out the way Alex Jones does.
I don't even know what to say at this point, because I've run my course, not with the censorship and the attacks, but I just belong to some other age, I guess, because there isn't any immediacy. There isn't any concern. There's just kind of jellyfish brain.
I want to be clear now. He's discussing the fact that InfoWars and Alex Jones are being censored on YouTube and Spotify, just to make sure you understand the context.
Where initiatives mean nothing. Like, we have total illegal censorship going on. We have them bragging about it. We have them dead to rights. No one will attack. And then I'm being totally shut down because we're writing reports and getting it to Congress, and they're beginning to act. I'm not that damn smart. You know how easy this is? Jesus. But no one wants to do it. No one has the instinct or the will to execute anything real. They only execute failure. Over and over and over again. Begetting the failure, begetting it, as the public begins to look like servile hippopotamuses.
We may need some faith healers.
He's having a hard time with it. You know, he's just having a hard time with it. You know, he hates being censored.
And you shit on it. And you think you're strong because you did something bad. And then you sit there when we're 2 inches away from collapsing like Venezuela. There'll be death in the streets, millions starved to death. It'll never be on the news. And you'll be so stupid you'll never even know how you shit on everything good. How you crapped all over your birthright when it was handed to you.
Again, this is his response to being censored on Spotify and YouTube. Alex Jones really takes it to 11 in a way that nobody else does. But even the professional weathermen have bad days from time to time.
No, yeah, that'll be fine.
All right.
Could be worse. Yep. Has been worse. Well, because you guys are dragging me down. You guys keep... Well, every time I get done with the 7-day, you guys are like, oh, gosh. Oh. Every time. Doesn't matter what time I come on. 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, and then you expect me to be chipper for 5 straight hours. It's miserable. Well, what are you supposed to do? I want you guys to say, wow, that's great news. It's going to be 60 on Friday. Well, I mean, what do you want me to do? Lie to you? I'll put 70 every day next time. God.
Thank you for your commitment.
Man, Thank you, Mr. Davis appreciates it. He knows when to bundle up.
Yep.
Here's some wind, here's some temperature, 20s. Feels like 19 or feels like 70, I don't know. 47, partly cloudy, southwest breeze 10 to 15. Here's a 60, I don't know if that's good enough for you guys. Get excited. Maybe I'll disappoint you with the 7-day here in a few minutes.
Ooh.
You know what? Sometimes you just get a little burned out, I guess. But we appreciate you guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope to see you right back here next week. Join us live over at jblive.tv. We do this show on Wednesdays. JupiterBroadcasting.com/calendars, where you can convert it to your local time. Thanks for being here. Hope to see you right back here next week.
To 15. Here's a 60. I don't know if that's good enough for you guys. Get excited. Maybe I'll disappoint you with the 7-day here in a few minutes.
Mommy needs a joint.
And there we go. Is overtime. How about a little celebration? A little fireworks to celebrate the O-Tate. O-Tate! Yeah! O-T in the hizzle! Oh! And you know what that means now, because Chase has still got a ton of time. He is grinding it out. Chase has just now reached the point in which I normally start the overtime. Yeah, it is. He sends me a glimpse, and I watch his journey, and the traffic is awful. So I want to play a few extra Benny clips for you guys because I got plenty. So let's just keep on going. Let's keep on rocking together. I wanted to talk a little about Rod Rosenstein, and to do that, let's back up to something that just broke the day we were just hours before Unfilter started last week, and that was articles of impeachment filed against Roddy Boy.
Back with this Fox News alert, just a few moments ago, Republican lawmakers announced that they will file articles of impeachment against Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein. Joining me now with what this means, how all of this is going to play out, former Congressman Jason Chaffetz, author of the new book, The Deep State. Good to see you tonight, Congressman. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for being here.
What does it mean?
I'm glad Congress is finally standing up for itself, because how many times do you have to have duly issued subpoenas that are just totally ignored by the Department of Justice? If you had done this, you'd be in jail. But the only way to enforce a subpoena is to get the Department of Justice to do it. And Rod Rosenstein has been more than cavalier in saying, no, I'm not going to comply with that. They've redacted things that shouldn't have been redacted, and they're not providing the documents to Congress. So that's one part of it, non-compliance to duly issued subpoenas. The second part is this FISA application. It has Rod Rosenstein's name on it. He is central to an investigation being done by Congress, the Inspector General, and perhaps others. And so here you have somebody that should have recused himself. He's signing off on an investigation. He's overseeing an investigation of which he's a central figure.
All right, so what do you think the likely outcome is? And Meadows and Jordan are going to be on with Laura Ingraham later this evening to talk about it. But, is this to force their hands so that they're more forthcoming with the documents, or is it real? Do they really want to impeach Rod Rosenstein?
They should. We had House counsel look at this. We tried to impeach Lois Lerner, something a lot of people don't know.
That went really well.
Well, what they said was, under advice and consent and the Constitution, House counsel came back and said, if you're confirmed by the United States Senate, then yes, you can do that. But very few members are willing to pull that trigger. And, you have people like Jordan and Meadows, and I hope a host of others that will start to understand it is one of the constitutional levers that is given to the power of Congress to stand up for itself. Because right now, they're totally impotent. They aren't able to do anything, and the Department of Justice just gives, thumbs their nose and puts a stiff arm up, and consequently, Congress can't do its job.
Okay, so that's the case to go after Roddy Boy. And now we go to something from today where the judge has his take on why it's probably not going to happen.
You roll
or at least why it's a draconian measure.
Eyes at this, though. Why?
I do roll my eyes at this because impeachment is such a draconian measure, and it's not authorized here. The Constitution lays out the grounds for impeachment, two very specific grounds: treason or bribery, obviously not the case here, and then an amorphous phrase, which has been defined by the courts and by Congress, as high crimes and misdemeanors. High crimes and misdemeanors means some criminal event committed by the person they want to impeach that strikes at the security of the republic. Failing to recuse yourself on a law enforcement issue that you're supervising and where you might be a witness is at best an ethical violation between the lawyer and the ethics monitors of the District of Columbia Bar or wherever he's licensed. It is not an impeachable offense. So they are really going way overboard. But there's a backstory here. The backstory is when Eric Holder was the Attorney General, and they wanted documents from him on Fast and Furious. Remember that? And he didn't produce him. The House of Representatives produced the documents. The House of Representatives held Attorney General Holder in contempt, and nothing happened. Nothing. They should have taken that contempt citation across the street to a federal judge and had him prosecuted, but nothing happened. So they have a history of doing nothing when they can't get what they're trying to get.
So we have some big news today around QAnon and something that happened at a Trump rally. And so I'm going to see if I can pull that in for you right now. We should probably start covering some of this. So let me see. It's all going to be pretty fresh clips. It's all inbound. So I don't know if, I don't even know if any of it's going to sync up. So what I'll do is I'll play something. Oh yeah, we got a couple. Okay. Well, no, we got a few we could go with. They're popping in right now actually as I look at the screen. So let's see, where should we start? Okay, yeah, I think we'll start here. Let's start here. This should be CNN's coverage.
They wore shirts and signs emblazoned with only the letter Q. Their numbers seem to be growing, and they were spotted last night at President Trump's Florida rally. They are a new fringe conspiracy theory group called QAnon. I want to bring in CNN's Tom Foreman. Tom, who are these people, and what do they believe?
Well, broadly speaking, these are people who deeply mistrust the government, the mainstream media, and who treat any facts showing Donald Trump is wrong about anything as proof of a deep plot against him.
Oh, shit, that's me. Wow, that is some broad fucking strokes. Whoa, I'm just like sitting with that for a second here. Holy shit, that is some wide labeling there. They just set phasers to wide burst. Holy cow.
Bring in CNN's Tom Foreman. Tom, who are these people, and what do they believe?
Well, broadly speaking, these are people who deeply mistrust the government, the mainstream media, and who treat any facts showing Donald Trump is wrong about anything as proof of a deep plot against him. Photos of missiles and mysterious strangers, rants about a shadow government, Freemasons, secret symbols, and predictions of a world about to change. All of this is part of the conspiracy stew cooked up by QAnon, an internet conspiracy persona, some followers of whom showed up at the president's most recent rally, and many of whom see him as a hero. Like them, ready to embrace wild theories, to claim secret plots against him, and to attack anyone who says otherwise.
Oh boy.
Fake news, fake news. They are fake.
Internet postings associated with the movement gained traction fast among followers, like one that says the Parkland school shooting victims and witnesses were really actors. NBC News noted earlier this week a spate of YouTube videos falsely accusing top celebrities of pedophilia.
The higher you go, the more sick it gets.
At the same time, the Q is attracting interest from others, including Roseanne Barr.
Man, they're really pulling it all together, aren't they? This has been really interesting over the last few weeks, how they've been tidying up. Like the Trump stuff, how they've now tied, every time Trump said something that encouraged the Russians to hack, they see a spike in hacking during the campaign. That's all really tidy. All of the indictment stuff's been super tidy. Everything's really coming together really nice.
And Kurt Schilling.
And I've been asked, do you believe the Q? Do you know who the Q is?
The Washington Post says Q is an anonymous user claiming to be a government agent with top security clearance, waging war against the so-called deep state in service to the 45th president. But back on Earth, this is known. The promotion of conspiracy theories can have real consequences.
The Hoover Dam was evacuated.
In June, police detained an armed man after he blocked Hoover Dam, demanding the release of a government report, apparently about Hillary Clinton's email, although such a report was already out. In 2016, police say a man fired a rifle in a D.C. pizza place as he claimed he was investigating a widespread conspiracy theory about human trafficking. He was convicted and is now serving 4 years.
We're not covering Pizzagate enough.
And Alex Jones, who pushed the Pizzagate conspiracy on his radio show, is now in court over another made-up tale. Families of victims in the Sandy Hook school shooting say they have been hounded mercilessly since Jones claimed their stories were all part of a hoax to push for gun control.
It's interesting, the families always pushing back with the Seth Rich stuff and the Sandy Hook stuff. It seems to be a common thread. It's either something that's really a problem or somebody's working with those families. Here is their take now on this. I believe this is Acosta at the Trump rally.
I want to talk to someone who was at the rally in Tampa last night. He's covered countless of these and has become one of the president's favorite human punching bags. CNN Chief Whitehouse Correspondent Jim Acosta. Jim, we've seen your videos, and I've been to these events too. I've met with countless Trump supporters. Even I was shocked at the level of vitriol that was aimed your way last night. Give us an idea of what it felt like to be in the middle of it.
Well, Essie, I mean, honestly, it felt like we weren't in America anymore. I don't know how to put it any more plainly than that. Americans should not be treating their fellow Americans in this way. But unfortunately, what we've seen, and this has been building for some time since the campaign, I've been talking about this as an issue since the campaign, when the president during the campaign referred to us as the dishonest media, the disgusting news media, liars, scum, and thieves, and so on, and then he rolled that right into the Oval Office and started calling us fake news and the enemy of the people. He is whipping these crowds up into a frenzy to the point where they really want to come after us. And we have these bike rack like barriers around the press cage, as we call it, to protect us essentially from people who might take things too far. It's unfortunate because, and I try to calmly talk to a lot of these folks at the rally last night to say, listen, hey, tell me what you want to talk about here. Why are you guys so upset with us? And they would kind of go through a list of questions. Most of the questions were about, why don't you guys report positive news about the president? And I said, hey, you know what? We do that. We were reporting on this positive job numbers in the economy last Friday. And my sense of it, Essie, is that these opinions that these folks have at these rallies, they're shaped by what they see in the primetime hours of Fox News. And
yeah, all by Fox News, not by your behavior, not by your dickbag nature. I want to punch you in the face, and I've literally never seen a story about you on Fox News. All right, here's MSNBC's take on QAnon.
So this segment right now is brought to you this morning by the letter Q, as in the letter on the T-shirts of Trump supporters in Tampa. The letter on signs like the one you're looking at saying, "We are Q." So what is Q? You should instead be asking, who is Q? Q is an anonymous user who started posting cryptic messages in the dark fever swamps of the internet last year. Somebody claiming to be a high-level government official with top security clearance, sharing what Q calls breadcrumbs about the so-called deep state supposedly conspiring to take down President Trump. So this QAnon conspiracy theory network then tries to follow those crumbs, those conspiracy clues, and floods YouTube and other sites with what they found. In this fringy alternate universe, senior Democrats run a secret child sex trafficking network. In the real world, they do not. In this alternate universe, the special counsel investigation is actually just a cover to really take down Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama because they were corrupted by the Kremlin. Another conspiracy theory. And the hot topic right now for QAnon, that the military convinced Donald Trump to run for president in 2016, part of a long game so the president and his military allies can now take down the deep state. See, here's the thing. The difference today is that these fringe theories ricocheting off the shadowy corners of the internet are now starting to see the light of day.
I really love how they build this into something that's so dangerous because the damn internet.
Like Q supporters showing up at rallies like last night's. More traction after some famous faces, Roseanne Barr, Curt Schilling, the former major leaguer, brought up some of these conspiracies online. I want to bring in now NBC's Ben Collins. Alexi and Sahil are back with me as well. So, Ben, you have been owning a lot of the reporting on QAnon. The Washington Post puts it this way. Quote, what Tuesday's rally in Tampa made apparent is that devotees of these falsehoods, some of which are specific to faith in the president, others garden variety nonsense with racist and anti-Semitic undertones, don't just exist in the far reaches of the web. Talk through how prevalent, how widespread this is or is not.
Yeah, we're talking videos with hundreds of thousands of views, probably millions of people believing in this, and you saw it last night at that Tampa rally for Donald Trump. This is showing up everywhere, and it's showing up on Amazon.com. Like, you can buy Q merchandise on Amazon.com.
I think they're jealous a little bit. I think they might be jealous because these things get more traction than they get ratings. You know what I mean? So I think they get a little jelly. I think that might actually be part of it. Here's another Sanders moment.
We begin with the politics lead today. President Trump escalating his attacks on the Russia investigation, going even further in his calls to shut down a law enforcement investigation into his own team, farther than we've ever seen before from this president or indeed from any president since Richard Nixon. Trump tweeting today that, quote, Attorney General Jeff Sessions should stop this rigged witch hunt right now before it continues to stain our country any further. This is now official White House language for describing a law enforcement investigation, signed off on by the president's own Justice Department and defended by the president's own FBI director as not a witch hunt. Here's the spokeswoman for the most powerful person on the planet this afternoon.
It's ridiculous that all of the corruption and dishonesty that's gone on with the launching of the witch hunt, the entire investigation is based off of a dirty, discredited dossier.
All right, that last statement from Sanders is a lie, of course. The investigation was launched before the dossier was drafted, and it has continued gathering evidence since, including during the Trump presidency. Special Counsel Mueller is, of course, also investigating the degree to which President...
He's been clearly coached by Schiff.
And Trump and his team have tried to stop the investigation with potential obstruction of justice charges at play. With that in mind, no doubt, the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, quickly stepped in to insist that the presidential tweet calling for his attorney general to stop a law enforcement investigation was not in fact obstruction, because the president said Sessions should stop the investigation, not that he must stop the investigation. Giuliani claiming that the president was merely expressing his opinion. He should do it. This afternoon, Sanders echoed that, and I do mean echo.
It's not an order. It's the president's opinion. The president is stating his opinion. There's no reason he shouldn't be able to voice that opinion. The president is stating his opinion. I think I've clarified this about 10 times now. It's the president's opinion.
Opinion or official order. Senator Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, gasped when a Bloomberg News reporter read her the president's tweet. Geez, Senator Collins said. This is unbelievable. Those comments are totally inappropriate. The president should not be talking about the investigation at all, unquote. With all due respect, Senator, is it really still unbelievable?
This is not normal. This is not normal. I'm not okay with that. It's not normal. A little more, let's see, on Manafort and his lavish ways. Should we do that?
NBC News intelligence and national security reporter Ken Delanian joins me from outside the courthouse. And Ken,
what's the matter with them and clapping at MSNBC? They all copy Rachel Maddow and they all clap into their fucking mics. Their mics are pinned to their jackets and to their ties, right? Or their boobs if they're a woman, right there on their shirt. And then these stupid millionaires clap their hands in front of their microphones, and they all do it on MSNBC, except for Hardball Guy, because if he took his hands off the desk, he'd fall over. But the rest of them are all clapping and rubbing their hands right into the microphone. It, as from a production standpoint, makes me nuts.
News intelligence and national security reporter Ken Delanian joins me from outside the courthouse. And Ken,
it's so frustrating.
News intelligence and national security reporter Ken Delanian joins me from outside the courthouse. And Ken, I believe we have recessed for the day. So the good news is you don't have to run back into the courtroom. So the highlights of today, it seems as if it was a battle of the prosecution trying to paint a very lavish and elite lifestyle of Paul Manafort, while a judge was trying to convince them not to do that. Help me out.
That was part of it. Yeah, that was part of it, certainly, Chuck. This judge, T.S. Ellis, is trying to restrain the prosecutors from graphically illustrating just how lavish and extravagant Paul Manafort's lifestyle was. He continues to say and admonish them and say, look, Paul Manafort is not on trial for being rich or spending lavishly. You've got to show the relevance. But what they did do is bring in a series of vendors, including, as you mentioned, some custom suit makers. How's this for a headline, Chuck? Paul Manafort spent more than $1 million on suits over like a 4-year period from 2 custom makers, one in Beverly Hills, House of Bijan. There was testimony that he bought a house for his daughter for $2 million, $3 million in improvements on his Hampton properties for a home improvement contractor. All of this was paid for by wire transfers from an account in Cyprus that prosecutors are going to allege later was parked there to avoid U.S. taxes in violation of American law.
Let me stop you right there. That is the important fact here. It's how he paid for all of this. It's not that he bought all of this. It's how he paid for it. The transaction he used, a wire transfer. Anyway, go ahead, Ken.
He wants to make sure that's clear because he and all of the elites that work for NBC buy like maniacs.
Absolutely, because look, in theory, he should have been able to afford all this stuff anyway. He was paid $60 million, or his firm was, for his work for this Ukrainian politician. But what prosecutors are saying is that he was so greedy, he still had to avoid American taxes on this. And here's another important thing.
It's probably just how you got to spend the money. Like if you're getting the money outside the system, you got to spend it outside the system. You can't go put it in your bank account, so you got to buy stuff, I would imagine.
That we learned from today, Chuck, that all of these witnesses were asked by the prosecutors, do you know who Rick Gates is? And they all said no, or unless they've heard of him in the news. The point the prosecutors made was while the defense was trying to say that Rick Gates was behind this illegal conduct and they're going to blame Rick Gates. That's essentially their defense. Each of these witnesses said they'd never heard of Rick Gates. He had nothing to do with these transactions. Paul Manafort paid these bills with money from Cyprus. And it's not clear, because the prosecutors won't talk to us, whether they have tailored their case to respond to this defense Hail Mary of trying to blame Rick Gates. But that's certainly what's happening. And now we don't even know if Rick Gates is going to testify, because one of the prosecutors raised that possibility today that he may not testify at the end of the day.
Well, let me ask you this. The evidence that was presented today, yes, you had people on the stand, but it was a lot of paper that was presented to the jury today, right? Which seems to indicate you may not need Rick Gates for this. They may have him just with ledger sheets.
I think that's a very important point. Yes, each of these witnesses were used to enter into evidence documents, invoices, emails, describing payments. And remember, the government indicted Paul Manafort and Rick Gates together. So they were prepared to go to trial and convict both of these men with this documentary evidence and other witnesses. They didn't think they needed Gates. Gates was gravy. He flipped. He turned state's evidence. It would be nice to have Gates walking them through this because he was Paul Manafort's aide-de-camp. And they may need him in the D.C. trial because that's about failure to register as a foreign lobbyist as well as this other stuff. But you're absolutely right, Chuck. It's not clear that they need him in this case.
Yeah, and it's very possible they don't want Manafort's lawyers beating up Gates in this trial, which would then harm him a little bit for the next one. Let me ask you a final question. Another lecture that the prosecution got today from the judge on the use of the word oligarch. Explain.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, Judge T.S. Ellis makes a lot of these proceedings about him. You know, he's been on the bench since the Reagan administration, and he went through a whole discourse about how the word oligarch is pejorative, and possibly you could call a high school principal an oligarch in some certain sense, and so the prosecutors shouldn't use it. And they replied, hey, Judge, we're not using it. Witnesses are using it to describe some of these Ukrainian funders of the politician who was paying Manafort. But at the end of the day, you know, the judge is the judge, and the prosecutors surrendered.
This guy sounds like a cornball. That guy's a cornball. The judge is a cornball. Everybody's a cornball. And meanwhile, the Podesta brothers, bunch of cornholers.
Oh, while many eyes are on Trump's former campaign manager, that trial flying under the radar are these reports now about investigations into a former Obama official and a Democratic lobbyist, among others, and their involvement in the same type of potential crimes that Manafort is facing. To sort it all out tonight, Jonathan Hunt's live in our West Coast newsroom with the story this evening. Jonathan.
Good evening, Bill. In the cases of those Democratic operatives who are now being investigated by federal prosecutors, there are no charges yet, and that is perhaps why there is far more focus right now on President Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, whose trial on bank and tax fraud charges is obviously underway. So we'll start there tonight, with the judge in the case telling prosecutors that their focus so far on Paul Manafort's lavish lifestyle, quote, isn't relevant. Judge T.S. Ellis adding that it's not a crime to be wealthy. Prosecutors were also told not to use the word oligarchs to describe the wealthy Ukrainians with whom Manafort did business, because the word implied that Manafort was associating with, quote, despicable people, and therefore he's despicable. That's not the American way, the judge said. President Trump again weighed in on the trial today, tweeting, quote, looking back on history, who was treated worse, Alphonse Capone, legendary mob boss killer and public enemy #1, or Paul Manafort, political operative and Reagan doll darling, now serving solitary confinement, although convicted of nothing? Where is the Russian collusion? Now to those other political operatives with Democrat Party ties. Special counsel Robert Mueller has referred the cases of former lobbyist Tony Podesta and former Obama White House counsel Greg Craig to New York prosecutors. And the Southern District of New York has, Fox News has confirmed, opened investigations into them over potential illegal foreign lobbying. Tony Podesta is the chairman of the Podesta Group and brother of John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's former presidential campaign chairman. Tony Podesta is being investigated for failing to register his work on behalf of foreign agents, in this case the government of the Ukraine. Craig, the former White House counsel, worked for a law firm that also did business on behalf of a Russian-backed former Ukrainian president. As I mentioned, no charges yet in those cases, nor are there any charges in a similar investigation of former Republican Congressman Vin Weber, nor for that matter in the case of President Trump's former personal attorney Michael Cohen, a case obviously getting a lot more attention than the one against the Democrat-linked operatives, perhaps because it's linked to a sitting rather than former president, or perhaps because it involves Playboy models rather than arcane lobbying laws. But the investigations bill showed just how many names of political operatives and lobbyists are coming up in the Mueller investigation.
He's a gangster. I mean, he's a gangster. Manafort's a gangster. He looks like a gangster. I mean, I don't mean to be a gangsterist, but he looks like a gangster. Not to be a gangsterist, but you know what I mean, right? He looks like a gangster. I got a couple of other things for you, too, here. Let's see about Cory Booker's split personality.
I love Donald Trump. I'm going to say that. What? I don't want to answer his hate with hate. I'm going to answer it with love. I'm not going to answer his darkness with darkness. I love him.
I hurt. When Dick Durbin called me, I had tears of rage when I heard about his experience in that meeting. And for you not to feel that hurt and that pain, that's unacceptable to me.
There's too much hate, then generate more love. If there's too much meanness, find ways to be more kind to your fellow Americans.
You are either complicit in the evil, you are either contributing to the wrong, or you are fighting against it. We are not called to be a nation of tolerance. We are called to be a nation of love.
That's sinister. It is, and it's evil to plot against Americans like that. We need to stop the bullshit partisanship in this country. We really do.
As opposed to just doing her job. Well, we know what happened in Europe when people just did their job. It allowed the most evil kind of hate to proliferate.
Love of country demands that we love each other. We don't always have to agree or like each other, but love says, I see your worth, I see your value.
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
If I saw an administrator in out and about, there's nothing wrong with confronting that person, but not to lead with love and to do it in a way that is more reflective of the values that we are trying to reject in our country is unacceptable to me.
Man, that's good. That's pretty good, right? I enjoyed that. That's just what I needed. That's from the Washington Free Beacon. Those guys do some good work over there sometimes. I gotta say, I love that. They put that together. I wouldn't put that together myself because the music would get me pulled down, but I don't care. For you guys, I decided, F it, we're doing it live. Okay, so I got more live stuff. Did we cover Putin inviting Trump to Washington? Or Putin ready to go to Washington? I actually might have said it right the first time now that I think about it.
Hello, I'm Ana Cabrera in for Kate Baldwin, and it is a morning of breaking news and big headlines at the White House. Just minutes ago, we learned that President Trump is open to accepting a brand new invitation from Russia's president. Vladimir Putin has invited President Trump to Moscow, and this comes just hours after sources told CNN that the president's former attorney, Michael Cohen, is ready to talk to special counsel Robert Mueller and deliver a potential bombshell in the Russia investigation. CNN's Jeff Zeleny is at the White House for us. Jeff, this has been a whirlwind 24 hours. Let's just start with the very latest, this new invitation from President Putin.
No question. Good morning. The fallout from that Helsinki summit is indeed continuing with this back and forth between Washington and Moscow over will there be a second meeting between the two presidents. Now, we are learning this morning, just a few moments ago, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said that President Trump is open to going to Moscow if he has a formal invitation. And they also say they still look forward to having Vladimir Putin here in the U.S. after the first of the year. Of course, this is a bit of a walk back from last week when he invited him here in the fall, which, of course, many Republicans across Washington were saying should not happen during or right after the midterm elections. Now, of course, this is all coming on the heels of that strong economic news. As you said, Anna, we saw the president in the South Lawn of the White House really talking about this economic growth, 4.1% growth of a GDP in the second quarter, certainly very strong, a sign of a robust economy. Of course, there are questions, can this be sustained or not? But without a doubt, very good news here. But Anna, if that was the main headline of the day, that would indeed be a good news for this administration. But so many self-inflicted wounds, if you will, still coming from these variety of controversies and investigations.
You see, that's exactly what the fuck I was talking about earlier. You see that? Was I not just talking about that? They clearly, the White House clearly wants the message to be about the economy. Clearly wants the message to be about that. And instead, he says, but what everybody's talking about is all of these controversies like the investigations. The only reason people are talking about it is because you keep talking about it. There's nothing that's really changed, especially when it comes to Trump. Just happened right there. Just happened right there. Let's watch it again. Let's watch again, because Chris always loves it when the media instantly proves him right within minutes of him bitching about them being pieces of shit.
Questions, can this be sustained or not? But without a doubt, very good news here. But Anna, if that was the main headline of the day, that would indeed be a good news for this administration. But so many self-inflicted wounds, if you will, still coming from these variety of controversies and investigations and secret tape recordings that are still coming from a variety of effects before the president took office. The latest of...
What? He keeps choking on his fucking tongue.
From a variety of effects before the president took office. The latest, of course, Michael Cohen, that bombshell development where he is now alleging that President Trump, then candidate Trump, knew about that Trump Tower meeting in June of 2016. Of course, President Trump has repeatedly denied that, said he did not.
Boy, that guy needs to practice his breathing, I think. Let's see, there was one other thing in here about Podesta I wanted to play. Did we get that? No, not this. That's Judicial Watch. Let's see. Did we get the Podesta clip on there? I don't think we did. I want to play it for you. I want to play it. Let's go see here. We watch this one here. Oh, come on. Now I want to play it for you. And Dragon Player is being a little turd. Dragon Player, I got to replace it. It's just, I like it for some reason, but it just seems super unreliable.
And how
Oh, we did play that one. Oh, God, we played that one. Oh, God. I need a brain cleansing. Let's do something weird.
For a guy who's been talking a lot, it was the tiniest of tweets. One little lonely word posted early in the morning. You. You what, wondered Twitter? Twitter decided to finish Rudy's tweet for him.
You are so beautiful. Honey, you are my shining star.
The good news for Rudy is that many songs beginning with you tend to be adoring.
You make me feel brand new.
Though there was the occasional downer.
You don't bring me flowers. You make me feel like a natural woman.
Responded someone else, he could never be a natural woman, referring to the time then Mayor Giuliani.
You know, you're really beautiful.
Dressed in drag for a charity dinner and got nuzzled by the man he now represents.
Oh, you dirty boy, you. Oh, oh.
While most finished Rudy's tweets, Kellyanne Conway's husband filled in the blanks before the you.
It had to be you.
And if song lyrics don't do it for you, how about movie lines? Someone recruited a few good men to complete Rudy's thought.
You can't handle the truth.
But Rudy sure has been handling lies, accusing Michael Cohen.
He's a bad liar.
Someone completed Rudy's you with a song played at Trump rallies. Sort of reminds us of the time President Trump posted that just after midnight head scratcher.
Kofifi, huh?
Only Rudy's is an actual word. Maybe he was about to tweet, "You have the right to remain silent." So far, Rudy has remained silent about the inexplicable.
Oh, gosh.
Yo. Jeannie Mo, CNN.
Oh, yeah, she does those fun pieces, Well, I feel like I haven't been fair to my boy Jim Acosta, and I feel like maybe I should give him another fair shake. So here is our boy Jim Acosta getting yelled at.
Jim, new attacks, a lot of deflection and denials from the Trump team.
Wolf, it seemed like a fog of confusion all day long. President Trump and his team are ramping up their attacks on special counsel Robert Mueller at a critical time in the Russia investigation. And one of the president's outside attorneys, Rudy Giuliani, is moving the goalposts for the probe, making the assertion that colluding with the Russians isn't even a crime. That's an odd line of attack, as the president has repeatedly said he is not guilty of collusion. Collusion.
Let's go.
Mr. President, do you think other countries... As his aides were nearly screaming into the ears of reporters asking questions in the Oval Office, President Trump declined to weigh in on the Russia investigation. At a later news conference with the Italian Prime Minister...
Do you feel betrayed by Michael Cohen, sir?
A question from CNN about his former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, and no response. Instead, the president unloaded in his usual safe space where there are no questions on Twitter, tweeting, "There was no collusion," and slamming the Russia investigation with a personal attack as the Robert Mueller rigged witch hunt.
I bet Jim's pretty proud of that, his safe space comment.
Usual safe space.
I bet he's pretty proud of that.
Cohen, and no response. Instead, the president unloaded in his usual safe space where there are no questions on Twitter, tweeting, "There was no collusion," and slamming the Russia investigation with a personal attack as the Robert Mueller rigged witch hunt. And just after the president was tweeting there was no collusion, his outside lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, was claiming on CNN that collusion isn't a crime.
Which I'm not even know if that's a crime, colluding about Russians. You start analyzing the crime. The hacking is the crime.
Asked about that, the president relied on his aides to drown out the question. Mr. President, if there was no collusion, why does Rudy Giuliani keep saying there is no crime in collusion? Giuliani also suggested the special counsel may have a conflict in the investigation, then incredibly couldn't say what it is.
Because he has the conflict, not the president. I can't tell you. I'm not sure I know exactly what the conflict is. I have a good idea what it is. It's one that would have kept me out of the investigation.
The former New York City mayor also railed against Cohen for secretly recording the president.
He's a scumbag. He's a horrible person. I've never heard of a lawyer taping his client without the client's consent.
Giuliani is also blasting the trial that's about to begin for former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort, arguing the case is simply being used as leverage to take down the president.
I mean, he's just a big fish. The reason I got Manafort in solitary confinement is so that he'll give up Donald Trump, not because he'll give up some Russian or Ukrainian he did business with.
Instead of answering questions on Russia, Mr. Trump returned to a pet issue for his base, immigration, again threatening a government shutdown if he doesn't get what he wants.
I would have no problem doing a shutdown. It's time we had proper border security. We're the laughing stock of the world. We have the worst immigration laws anywhere in the world.
Trump also made the stunning announcement that he would be willing to meet with Iran's leadership without preconditions.
If they want to meet, I'll meet. Anytime they want. Anytime they want. It's good for the country, good for them, good for us, and good for the world. No preconditions.
President also trying to sound tough today on Russia, insisting his summit with Vladimir Putin was great and standing firm on sanctions against Moscow, saying they will remain in place for the time being. But, Wolf, getting back to Rudy Giuliani's claim that collusion is not a crime, it's a curious thing to say, Wolf. That is the one denial we have heard from the president. No collusion, no collusion. That is the one denial we've heard from the president over and over again since he basically came into office, Wolf.
Almost on a daily basis. Jim Acosta at the White House. Thank you.
Well, is he sticking with it? We don't know yet. We don't know. So simmer down, simmer down. CNN's really busting out the clips today. They're pretty upset over a rally really giving the reporters a hard time.
I think we're going into dangerous territory here.
Here we go. Buckle up. I'm going to give you a second here if you need to, like, take a shot or light and take a pull, whatever it is you got to do to get yourself right for a couple of minutes, because we're going to do this together. You and me. Okay? We're going to do this, and we're going to make it through this. I go to my girl Simone.
I think we're going into dangerous territory here.
Oh, yeah.
There is absolutely a difference between freedom of speech and someone heckling and threatening and putting folks' lives in danger. I mean, I think I saw something on Twitter last night about a protest at Ole Miss years ago during the civil rights movement, and reporters were reporting on the issue. Folks were standing outside, and the mob were heckling the reporters, and it ended in a brawl where a reporter lost his life. And so these are dangerous times for lots of people, and unfortunately the media included. And I just wish that the president would take the reins and help dial back this rhetoric.
Look, this is the type of behavior that happens in authoritarian societies, where leaders and their supporters are pushing down the media, pushing down people who are protesting. And this is something that people watch the United States.
She might look familiar. She is Jen, the former Obama White House communications director.
And they say, what is this president, what are their spokespeople doing? They are repressing free speech. They are repressing the rights of the media. It's not only dangerous, it's sending a terrible message to the world. I know when I was the State Department spokesperson, I had people who were in that briefing room who were from the government of China, the government of Russia, who would yell at me and make absurd claims. Fox News impugned my reputation multiple times. You still took questions from them.
We took a couple of waxy on this show, too.
Sure. You still took questions from them. Yeah. You still, served the government. You still are serving the American people, and that's part of your job.
And they went after you last week because you were asking the White House. I mean, went after you last week because you were trying to ask some questions at a pool spray, and then there was this whole thing where they banned you from an event.
Yeah, I think they're separate situations. They didn't like the questions that I asked the president. They didn't think they were appropriate to ask in front of another world leader, which I did in the Oval Office. That's different when the White House is trying to restrict that speech, trying to restrict you from being able to ask questions of the president. I do think that those supporters last night at that rally in Tampa do have free speech. They can chant whatever they would want like that. I also think a lot of people at that rally aren't like that and don't go and chant things
Most
like
of them are not like that.
Right. A lot of them are decent people who do not feel that way about the media. They go home and watch the news at night and all of those things. I do think that
they're good people because they go home and watch the news at night.
Is a minority doing that. But also, I think the reason this is newsworthy and the reason that the White House is having to answer for it is because the president retweeted a video of it happening that his son had tweeted out. So I think that raises the question of, is the president endorsing behavior like this? Certainly at those rallies, he's the one who calls out the media at the back of the room.
It is something that is not normal. It's not normal. It's not normal. Oh my gosh, it's not normal. Oh my gosh, that's not normal.
20 people are now reported missing as that giant wildfire ravages parts of Northern California.
This is not normal!
CNN's Nick Watt is in Redding for us. Nick, the fire has now burned an area larger than the city of Denver, and the loss is clearly tremendous. Update our viewers.
Listen, Wolf, across the state of California right now, we have 17,000 homes under threat from flames, more than a dozen wildfires burning in this state. Now, here in Shasta County, the Carr Fire, this is now the worst fire this county has seen since records began way back in 1923. 170,000 square miles have burned here. And as you mentioned, 20 people currently listed as missing, 6 people confirmed dead.
Climate change!
This apocalyptic blaze is eating through thousands of acres of forest, so large it's visible from space. The flames have destroyed more than 800 homes and counting. The statistics are stunning, but the personal stories hit hardest.
You could see the flames in your rearview mirror as you're driving away?
Yes, that was the terrifying part. It was like a wall of fire. It was like a train. It had a noise. It was awful. I thought I was on a sci-fi movie.
Driving away from a home you may never see again.
And that's what happened. Lots and lots and lots of memories. Yeah, they're gone. I mean, everything's gone.
Everything?
Everything.
What did you manage to save?
I have 2 Rubbermaid tubs that I threw some stuff in. Some scrubs for work.
A nurse, she's back at work already.
I actually felt better yesterday than I had in a long time because I was at work and I felt like I had a purpose.
Right.
This was her home before the fire.
And this is all that's left of Stacey Kelly's house. Rubble and a few charred trees. In fact, her entire little cul-de-sac, 6 houses, all completely destroyed. But then if you look just across the street, the random nature of wildfires, another house, still standing.
I just feel empty. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I don't think I'll rebuild that house. I don't think so.
The fire swept through the west side of Reading, population more than 90,000, and through rural communities to the north and west.
It's awful, and I hope this doesn't come across as insensitive because as a young child, I lost a family home to a fire, so I definitely understand what it's like. But you know, when the Earth invented fire, they didn't really make any considerations for humans and their wood homes built from trees, and it's a really, really sad thing. And at the same time, wildfires are part of Earth's process. So, like, how do you account for that? What can you do? Is there a better way to account for that? I don't know. I don't know what it would be, but I wish there. I hope there is. I hope there's something. I had to go through that as a young child, and it was awful. It was really it was very scary as a young kid to walk through the burnt house and see some of your stuff destroyed. So it's it's awful to see that. So let's pick up the mood for a moment. Let's pick it up. Pick it up.
Why do you think these attacks are becoming so much more frequent now?
It's not surprising that Donald Trump is increasing his attacks. The walls are closing in on him.
The walls are Don't just stand there, try and brace it with something.
It feels like the walls are closing in on the White House. It feels as if the walls are closing in here.
I think the walls of justice are closing in on President Trump.
Increasingly desperate, feeling like the walls are closing in.
The president clearly feels all the walls closing in on him in terms of the Russia investigation.
The walls are closing in.
I think at this point, the walls are spinning. It does feel like the walls are closing in, but I think that the administration at this point can start to see the walls closing in.
He feels the walls closing in on him. Everybody he talks to says the walls are closing in.
This is another potential wall closing in.
This president is feeling the walls are closing in. The walls, meanwhile, are closing in on the president of the United States.
I think he's feeling the Russia investigation. I think he's feeling the walls closing in on him.
I think he knows that the walls are closing in.
The walls may be closing in higher up at the White House.
The president apparently believes that the walls are closing in on him.
The walls are closing in on the president right now.
That Donald Trump feels the walls closing in.
Feeling like the walls are closing in around him?
Yes.
Does it seem like the walls could be closing in on this president?
Feels like we are finally at a tipping point. The walls are closing in on President Trump.
Feels like the president is sitting in the White House. The walls are closing in around him.
And that's why there's this sense of the walls closing in.
As it appears the walls are closing in terms of the Mueller investigation.
The walls are closing in.
The walls are closing in.
I do feel that he feels the walls closing in on him.
Legal walls are closing in on Donald Trump tonight.
From a Democratic perspective, this is the president who feels like the walls are closing in.
As he feels the walls are closing in,
any indication that legally speaking, the walls are closing in on the president?
Feel some of the walls closing in on him.
Is that the walls are closing in on President Trump.
The walls are closing in on the president.
It's another.
They're dying, Artu.
That's another free beacon.
Body. I wasn't fast enough. It's all my fault.
That's good, right? And so I see a lot of you, and they're like, "How is this possible? How are they all using the same language?" I think it's a matter of groupthink. What might seem almost like a scripted conspiracy that's being orchestrated by a master scripter, possible. But what I think is more likely is this is a very vivid, in-your-face example of human beings' tribal groupthink. And their individual peers that they respect start using certain language, and they adopt that language because there's a hierarchy inside in that tribe. And all communities have this. And the media and the people in the media are this elite group of people that are quasi-celebrity status. They're rich. They have access to powerful people, but yet they don't really have any power themselves without their media position. And it's a very odd, they have a very odd spot in our social structure, if you think about it. And so they are a group. They are a tribe. They are of a kind. And so they share common language. And you can really see it in clips like that. Isn't that something? It's kind of sick in a way. And so that's why I think in a lot of ways they didn't even see the Trump thing coming. They didn't even see it. They were so far down in their own group butt, they couldn't even fathom it. I suspect. And I actually try to guard against it a little bit. Like, how do I prevent that from happening to myself? I don't know what this clip is. Producer Matt just paused this. Tucker versus CLP.
Well, in the interest of public safety, we've repeatedly warned you about the dangers of the creepy porn lawyer you often see on television. Keep your kids away from him, obviously.
Wow.
Nevertheless, this is a news show. We want to be fair. So we have a standing invitation for the creepy porn lawyer to appear on this program whenever he desires.
Wow.
We contacted him repeatedly with this offer, and he says he will appear, but only on 3 conditions. First, we must stop using our completely accurate creepy porn lawyer nickname. He doesn't like it. Second, we must issue a public apology for calling him the creepy porn lawyer. And third, he must appear alongside Rudy Giuliani, presumably so that he will have a food source. We, of course, refused these conditions. We don't stand for conditions. And we said he could appear alone, as he does on every other cable channel, or alongside Alan Dershowitz, who's publicly offered to debate him. His response, and we're quoting now, "I'm happy to come on your show and debate Rudy Giuliani, who actually represents the president, or any other lawyer that actually represents the president." We repeated our offer. The creepy porn lawyer is welcome to come on a show with a real audience whenever he likes, with the same conditions he gives to other shows. His response was this, quote, "Tucker is an unethical journalist and a hack." Well, our feelings are not hurt. That invitation remains open. The creepy porn lawyer can join us anytime he has time. And he may have a lot of time coming up, we suspect.
That's a really weird conflict. That's very strange.
You may have heard that my new book is coming out this Tuesday.
Jesus, dude. Could you just be a little more classy about it? God.
Sadly, I didn't get invited on The View to talk about it. Would have helped. Would have helped.
They have a laugh track?
But I did get invited on a much better show. I can honestly say it may
Put the fucking book down, you stupid asshole.
Be my favorite interview ever. They even gave me permission.
God, it's making me angry, guys. Like, what a whore.
To run the full clip here on my very own show. Take a look.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, they're gonna do this? This is just a really cheesy plug for his own book on his own show. This is more of an ad. This is more of an ad, and he couldn't get anybody real to help him shill his own book, so he got some stagehands in a suit or somebody in a suit. Is that what I'm to understand right now? So that way he could spend 3 minutes shilling his book.
Or they've got a henna tattoo, and it's just like I find that I fall into stereotypes over time, which is intellectually lazy. So I try to call myself on that wherever I go. Also, I think I was a little too mean on Bernie Sanders. I should have been nicer.
He's trying to take it serious. This is so off tone.
I think that my favorite topic is always going to be Hollywood.
He's giving serious answers. They're adding a fake laugh track.
Because it's so easy. Something is always going on in that place that is worthy of ridicule. Every day there's an actor or an actress saying something stupid, and I wake up every morning to write about it. It makes my job so easy. It does. Well,
okay, so to continue our analysis here, this motherfucker even knows what the questions are, of course, obviously. He's even probably reading them right there on cue cards. He's even jumping the gun before the stupid, annoying dolphin clip sound is done. He scripted this entire thing. He's reading it right now, and he'll start talking before the dolphin's even done asking. He's like Putin.
Well, generally, you know, the producer will send me some ideas, and that's actually a great question, Dolphin. And what I do is I just pick the ones that are most exciting to me.
God, this is so painful. So I've now fast forward. Let's see. This is way into it.
Dolphin.
Thanks, Greg. That means a lot. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish here. So this is the Greg Gutfeld show, and yeah, it's a low budget like Letterman knockoff set with a fake audience or a real audience. I don't know. I've never watched it.
Thanks again to Dolphin Stevens and Ted Froggerson.
You are so funny. Wow. Wow, producer Matt. Wow. Like, I can't even with that clip right now. Like, I can't even with that thing. Holy crap. No wonder why you put it in the bullshit category. He literally has a bullshit category, and I hadn't gone in there today. That is some nightmare fuel, as it is said in the chat room. Speaking of nightmare fuel, I got a little more Alex Jones for you. I don't know. I know it's awful. I know I shouldn't. I don't know what my problem is.
PCP, I sure as hell don't want to join them. And then I just come to the realization out of trillions of worlds, we're going to probably die. And everything we did as a species and all of our beauty and all of our goodness will just fail. And we're going to go down the tubes because a bunch of inbred child molesters in Hollywood had some psychotic dream that they wanted to kill everybody. And so we all just rolled over by peer pressure and gave into it and never executed anything real, never did anything real, never took action when all the tools were right there in our hands because we weren't meant to. We couldn't do it. We didn't want it.
Generally, you're not supposed to pound on your table that's holding your microphone when you're on the radio.
You've betrayed your birthright to your family.
Yeah, somebody farted in his eye. Yeah, you're right. You're right. He's got pink eye. He's got a lot going on right now. I think he's really having some tough times.
Trade your birthright to your family. To everything people did for you. You piss on it and you shit on it. You think you're strong.
I don't know why I find this funny.
She did something bad. And then you sit there when we're 2 inches away from collapsing like Venezuela. There'll be death in the streets, millions starved to death. It'll never be on the news. And you'll be so stupid, you'll never even know how you shit on everything good.
Way to go,
guys. How you crapped all over your birthright when it was handed to you. on a golden platter.
That's my favorite part.
And while these cowards, these globalists, for 10 years have been building armored fortresses all over the world in the middle of nowhere, when they got this big-ass plan cooked up to fuck everybody over.
You know what this is, I think, is when you get the wrong mix of male vitality pills. That's what happens, is you end up going a little overboard. All right, so let's talk about that government shutdown a little bit.
Now to a new week at the White House, and President Trump coming out swinging. He's taking aim at Democrats on Twitter, threatening to, quote, shut down the government if they won't fund his border wall. The president and his legal team also growing more public in their feud with former fixer and personal attorney Michael Cohen. These latest attacks are sharpening the political lines with exactly 100 days to the midterms. ABC's Tara Palmieri is in New Jersey tonight.
Tonight, President Trump threatening to shut down the government if he doesn't get a border wall.
We're going to build a wall. It's going to be a great wall.
Tweeting, I would be willing to shut down government if the Democrats do not give us the votes for border security, which includes the...
I can't believe... Sorry to interrupt. I'll back it up. I'm sorry I'm doing this, but I just can't believe that this ABC World News Night reporter is recording this in what is obviously a noisy little hotel room. Now, I can't even with this. I can't even with this. Like, I work so hard on audio quality, and I'm like a dude in Arlington. A dude in Arlington. How can you not? So here's the thing. As a member of the media, you get access to radio stations to go record. This is just lazy, and they let this fly on television. The audio sounds like she's in the bathroom stall of a hotel room somewhere where she was, I don't know, following Donald Trump. I can't even fathom, but it's just so annoying.
To shut down government if the Democrats do not give us the votes for border security, which includes the wall. Just 100 days from the midterm elections, Congress scrambling to secure $5 billion for border security in the next funding bill. They need to lock in the votes before the money runs out September 30th. Members of the president's own party speaking out against the shutdown threat.
I certainly don't like playing shutdown politics. I don't think it'd be helpful, so let's try and avoid it.
When President Trump signed the last $1.3 trillion spending bill in March, he made it clear it was a regret he would not repeat.
But I say to Congress, I will never sign another bill like this again. I'm not going to do it again.
The president also waging an increasingly public battle with his former fixer and attorney, Michael Cohen.
Boy, they really like to repeat the same stuff. They're really running out of stuff. They need more stuff, don't they? I kind of feel bad for them a little bit. One more clip.
UK media are reporting that the Manchester Arena bomber was rescued from war-torn Libya by the British Navy in 2014, 3 years before he carried out a terror attack at an Ariana Grande pop concert. The atrocity left 22 people dead and dozens more injured. With the details, here's Polly Boyka.
Well, according to media reports here in the UK, 3 years before that deadly attack in Manchester, Salman Abedi had been rescued by the British government from Libya. It was part of an operation to rescue British citizens. He was taken aboard a Royal Navy ship and taken to Malta, from where he reportedly then got a flight back to the UK. And he'd been rescued by the British government, even though he had been under the surveillance of the Domestic Intelligence Agency here, that's MI5. Now, in terms of Abedi's background, he was born in the UK, but to Libyan parents, so he was a British citizen. But in 2011, Abedi's parents moved to join the uprising against the government of Muammar Gaddafi. And his father was thought to have been fighting in a terrorist group called the LIFG, the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group. And Abedi was thought to have sort of shuttled back and forth between the UK and Libya for a number of years. But
so there you go. He's getting moved around. Now, I see a demand in the chat room, and I wasn't going to do this. This wasn't planned. I wasn't even going to mention the fact that there may be more Alex Jones clips, and I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to play them, but it is true. I have a clip of Alex Jones urging Donald Trump to take back control of the internet kill switch.
Let's go ahead and just play this little clip, because at the same time he's saying, oh, the intelligence agencies are really great people, the lights go out. You can see they're clearly dimmed on purpose.
That's my bit.
Was it a stunt, an SOS by the president? Tucker Carlson points out that his statement was like that of a kidnapped man, of a man held hostage. A hostage letter, a hostage tape.
Wow, I didn't go there.
The lights go out, but at the same time, drudgereport.com, Infowars.com, ZeroHedge.com, and Breitbart.com, and others selectively had their DNSs turned off.
DNSs?
Where no one can go to the websites for 1 hour. 60 minutes exactly turned off. In a statement that we have the internet kill switch, and Trump needs to take back control. They built back doors into this. They gave it to China. Brennan, all the Obama people still are in the national security system that is totally illegal, totally panopticonic, absolutely beyond Big Brother to infinity.
Can you tell me what Poptaconic is? I'd like to know what Poptaconic is. So there you go. Alex Jones is plugged into the news of the DNS system, keeping us up to date on the developments of DNS. And also, when the White House asks for transcripts, InfoWars delivers.
Like you said, we've already caught them lying to Congress. We've already caught them illegally spying. They're discredited. So why does the president hold back? Why is Giuliani better than some, but still milquetoast? I mean, if you were the president's advisor, I know a lot of what we talk about here does get to the president in the form of reports. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, mysterious.
They sent him transcripts. He asked for it.
What happened to you leaving it at that? You literally just said you were going to leave it at that, and then you immediately didn't leave it at that.
Does get to the president in the form of reports. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
They sent him transcripts.
Wait, what?
He asked for it.
Oh, then you go even further.
And I haven't been asked to keep that secret, so I can tell you that. He gets reports. I don't know if he reads them all. What would you say to the president?
First thing I would say is order the Department of Justice, because the president is technically the head of the Department of Justice. He's the head of the executive branch of government.
There you go. He would give the orders directly. So there you have it. There you have it. There you have it. So are you happy now? I gave it to you. I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to play those clips. But then you made me do it, chat room. You made me. I wasn't going to do it. I was just going to play some other clips about other things. But then you all were like, play the clip, Chris. Play the clip, Chris. And then I'm like, come on, I don't want to. I was going to play this Putin clip. Because I just wanted to like look at Putin for a little bit. Yeah, okay. Well, Putin invited Trump to a meeting in Moscow. There you go. I didn't really have... Did you see this this Russian spy gal?
Welcome back. It sounds like something ripped from a spy movie or a reboot of The Americans. A young Russian woman accused of conspiring to influence American conservative politics on behalf of Russian intelligence. 29-year-old Maria Butina was arrested last weekend in Washington, where she had recently graduated with a master's degree in international relations from American University. On paper, she was a student and a gun rights advocate, known around campus for having pride in her homeland and defending Russian interests in class discussions. At the same time, investigators claim she was a covert agent funded by Alexander Torshin, a Russian oligarch with close ties to the Kremlin. And at his urging, investigators say, she worked to gain access to American political operatives, conservative politicians, and political groups, including the Trump campaign, and more importantly in this story, the NRA. Well, joining me now is someone who has done a lot of reporting on Butina and Russian intelligence efforts in this area. It's Michael Isikoff. He's the chief investigative correspondent for Yahoo News, co-author of the book Russian Roulette, and of course, a former colleague here at NBC News. Michael.
Good to be with you.
Welcome back to Meet the Press. All right. You are Facebook friends with Maria Butina. I know you did it for your reporting.
Yes.
So how did you first discover her?
I started hearing about her during the 2016 election as somebody who kept showing up at conservative political events, CPAC conferences, national prayer breakfasts, NRA meetings, conventions. She met with NRA leaders when they went to Moscow and hosted them. And it struck a lot of people as odd. What is this woman doing here? She was extremely flirtatious. She tried to maintain contact with a lot of influential Republican lobbyists, activists. She had this very close relationship with this guy, Paul Erickson. conservative activist in South Dakota. But what really got my attention was the Alexander Torshin connection. Alexander Torshin, who you mentioned, was a deputy governor of the Russian Central Bank. He was a close ally of Putin, and most importantly, he was under investigation by the Spanish National Police for money laundering. In fact, he had these ties to this organized crime money laundering gang in Spain. The Spanish National Police had him on wiretap.
He was getting arrested.
They were planning to arrest him. He was referred to by the organized gang leader as El Padrino, the Godfather. And they were all set to arrest him when he was going to fly into Mallorca for a birthday party. He got tipped off and didn't go. But all this time, he's flying in and out of the United States with Butina, meeting with NRA leaders and Republican activists.
Oh, damned right there. NRA and activists. Boom, boom, boom.
Since news of her arrest broke 2 weeks ago, the media have been abuzz with rumors concerning Russian gun rights activist Maria Butina. Butina, a Russian national, was arrested just hours before President Trump met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Helsinki. And while headlines have been quick to characterize Butina as an alleged spy, RT correspondent Anya Parampil explains that that description is not accurate.
You've probably heard a lot in the media about a woman named Maria Butina.
Accused Russian operative Maria Butina. Maria Butina, a Russian national who was indicted this week.
Accused Russian secret agent Maria Butina. We found out about one Russian spy who had been trying to mess with U.S. politics for years.
Now, the red-haired Russian is accused of being a secret foreign agent.
But we just learned about a new Trump campaign-linked Russian spy, Maria Butina.
Calling Butina a spy sure makes this story sexy. However, Butina has not been charged with espionage, nor is she referred to as a spy anywhere in legal documents relating to her case. That fact hasn't stopped the mainstream press from repeating this claim ad nauseum.
Surprise, surprise. Speaking of that press, I did have somewhere in here. I had a great montage of some of the more recent great bloopers. Chase is going to be here in just a minute. We're going to kick off the show, so maybe this is a good way to wrap up the live exclusive clips with a bunch of fuck-ups.
And a local. Wow, excuse me, I could not stop that. New NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine took the oath of office.
Anyway, they also say bad bacteria can get into those cracks, and good bacteria often gets washed away.
What about other cracks that need to? I'm just saying, especially if you work out, like, you gotta get yourself clean.
Police say that she walked into the Enterprise rent-a-car. An incident report says that Wall walked behind the counter. She pulled down her pants and showed her backside. Can't make this stuff up, folks. I'm sorry. I tell you what, if you want to read more about that full story, you want to get to the bottom of it, go on.
As well as Paul Rust from the hit Netflix series. I gotta see this guy again.
I'm going to have to jump into the water, actually. I'm going to be very careful because I've got this sound pack on. But Sarah Vasey, Adam Peaty, Siobhan Maria Connor, Ben Proud and James Guy, congratulations. Oh, I didn't see the step. Sorry about that. Well, let's give him all a good laugh. Adam's inconsolable there. Just look before you get in a swim pool in future, okay? I hope you can still hear me. I'm going to have to get rather close and mind the step. Can you continue, Sarah? Because we want to talk about your goal. You don't want to talk about me falling in the water. But all the people watching here are literally on the floor.
Now, the police officer was trying to pull this fool over when he got out of the car and started to run. Well, he didn't get very far. I wonder if the car gets like an assist. You know what I mean?
For the takedown, for the takeout. Like, you shouldn't have been driving me anyway. I told you. Put the keys down.
Should have been driving me anyway.
All right, let's go over to Brandon. Trying to make people laugh who are dealing with all this snow this morning.
I looked in the rearview mirror and I saw two of me. It was the other me driving. It hit me.
This specific type of monkey, which I believe is called a mycock.
Not what you said. Why do I have to go right now?
I need help.
Oh, forecast first.
You can kind of feel for him because a lot of these people are getting there at like 4 in the morning to do this job. So it is easy to kind of lose your crap after a while, I would think. Like that guy played at the end of the overtime. The same kind of thing.
Shot. Run, Sarah, run. Run. She's very busy. She has a lot to do.
Să pregătit de Răciun? Scufița roșie.
Scufița noastră
Sărătăcii prin zăpadă.
Bună dimineața, Roxana, cum stăm cu vremea?
Bună dimineața, dragilor! 33 como máxima. León también. Qué interesados están en el clima.
¡Qué calor!
Yo. Bueno, yo voy a entrenarme. Yo voy a entrenar primero que nada.
Pero tú tienes cuerpo para meterte en el jacuzzi.
Guys, that's just a different language. Jeez, figure it out. All right, let me check it. Hold on, let me see. I don't see it. I'll tune in the stream and I'll trouble, so it sounds like our audio interface changed.
No.
But yeah, it's Spanish, so don't freak out.
No, déjame recoger 6 millas más. Y luego entonces digo que...
Faisal, tell us, how bad could this week be for her, if you can hear me? Can't see you, that's for sure. We're going to try and speak to Faisal. He's in Portcullis House rather than our studios. Don't want to empty chair him.
By his noise, he had already, excuse me, sorry, just some cars have had a bit of a crash behind us there. I mean, such is the media crowd there. It has been very busy here today. From players on the court to the fans in the bleachers.
So we've had so much a good time and we had so much support. I'm sorry.
I almost got kissed. I'm so sorry. Sorry.
So tell us what you were doing and what you saw.
I was sitting at home and I was playing Fortnite, and all of a sudden I just hear a bunch of noise, and I look out the window and I start seeing the roof come off the houses in front of me. But then I sit back down because I only got like a couple people left in my gang. I was gonna try to finish the game.
And what's going through your mind as you said you're in the bathroom with your sister and nephew?
I'm like, honestly, I was just thinking about the game.
John Dickerson returns, so stay with us.
New at 6, Toledo Lucas County Democrats used a big duck trying to, sorry about that.
Okay, don't move. No. I don't know what it is. What is it? Moran, there's something over here. No. Moran.
Keine Sicherheit darüber, dass es hier auch zu einem Regierungswechsel kommt. Denn das Wahlrecht in Ungarn ist so gestaltet, dass es Orbáns Fidesz-Partei bevorzugt. Das heißt, er kann sogar mit einer Stimmenminderheit, die hier sehr wahrscheinlich ist.
All right, so let's see. Check 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 1 2
7 5 4.
Sounds fine to us.
12.
It's just what's going into OBS, which is such an annoying pain in the ass. You know what I mean? Maybe we just do the show like with the super cool. Oh, it sounds okay now. That's less dramatic now that I fixed it. Hey, buddy.
Hey, man. What phone?
Supposed to guess what phone.
Yeah, you're supposed to. Because
touch it.
Well, you can look at it.
Is it one plus another?
No.
No. What is it?
It's the LG.
All the notches make it look the same to me.
Yeah, I know.
I can't tell what the notches do.
I know.
Do you like it though?
I just got it today.
Oh yeah. Do you like it so far?
So far, yeah.
Yeah.
It's I got the LG G7. My Pixel died completely.
Oh really? What happened?
Well, I think it was just just bad firmware.
Really?
It became bricked and
no way
unrecoverable.
Were you messing around with?
No. It was.
Were you messing around with it?
Been running stack.
Really?
Yeah, man.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to get a new device. That's always fun.
And they're saying they're getting Barry White chase. Maybe I'm just naturally deep.
Oh, I thought we just checked it and they said it was good.
Well,
I wonder if it just flipped back again. Hold on, let's see. We might have a bad audio interface, which would really be a shame because I really hate when we have to break the stream up. You know what I mean?
Am I really that deep? But here you go. Just
we got to talk now.
Okay, well, I'll talk. I mean, now you can look at it. This is just one of the colors. This is like I think
that's just what you sound like.
I know
that is just what he sounds like.
But I think it's a pretty phone.
You should listen to it. You have a thing. Yeah, that is a pretty phone. You're right.
Yeah.
Where could I listen to it where we could hear it back? Probably, I guess, on this machine, because I think it sounds like what you sound like.
That's me. I'm just a normal.
Yeah.
Kind of got the bassy, but not quite bassy kind of.
Maybe
thing.
they're new, dude.
They could be new.
I think they're new. Let me you read something off the screen.
That's me. I'm just a normal.
Yeah.
Kind of got the bassy.
That's what you sound like.
Yeah, that sounds normal.
Okay, all right.
All right, hold on. No,
see, now they're fucking with me.
I know.
Now I'm worried.
I got the wrong voice. Hold on. Now, Chris, what we need to do?
There you go.
Is say,
there you go. That's the voice.
That's the voice. Hey, Hillary, come on in. I got a question here for you.
You know what I failed to do?
Hey, could you get me a cup of coffee?
There you go. Maybe some ribs too.
I know it's late, and some chicken.
Except for the problem is she lives in another house now. She lives in another house now.
Well, you
guys don't live in the same house anymore.
We got to pay the bills.
Yeah, you got to pay the bills.
Got to pay the bills.
I didn't save that clip from last time. I didn't save that. It's too bad. All right, chat room, the title suggestions are open. You can begin banging and suggesting to your heart's content. You know me, I always like it when it matches
I
the
do
intro.
have a feeling, though, that titles might get biased today.
Oh, we're doing that? We're teasing already, huh?
No.
I wonder if I should use the girls' room. I should probably use the powder room.
You should
powder
pop
my
a
nose.
squat.
I wasn't going to take a poo. I was just going to go powder my nose.
Oh, well, powder.
I was going to powder my nose.
I didn't know you got coke.
I wonder if that's what people used to call it.
That's what they used to call it.
Like people don't do coke now.
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'll be right back.
All right, so Chris is going to go powder the nose, and it's once again time for Fireside Chat with Chase. Hi, guys. Well, new Coke or Classic? Why? I'm not drinking soda. However, it was always classic for me. It's always been classic, followed closely by Crystal Pepsi. So you got Coke Classic, Crystal Pepsi, then RC Cola. That's in the top 3. If we're going to go fill out the top 10 list, I always love myself some orange Fanta. I don't know why. I just always have a good love for that drink. Also a fan of strawberry lemonade. I remember Blue Crystal Pepsi. Not a lot of people do. Well, actually, I think it was just Blue Pepsi. I don't think it was like Blue Crystal. I think it was just blue. They just called it blue. We have a clip emergency. So that's fine. I'm a professional broadcaster. I am good at stalling when necessary. So, yeah, no, my Google Pixel, I loved that phone. I loved it so hard, and I loved it so hard that it decided, you know what, it needed freedom from me. And it happened last week. I went to the Mariners game against the Giants. It's a little sports ball thing. That was before the show. Yeah, that's right. That was the second game. Had a great time. Well, because it worked fine that day. So I went to bed on Wednesday night, plugged it in like I always do. Next morning, I wake up, get ready to go for work. I unplug the phone from the charger, and the phone doesn't turn on. I'm like, that's odd. So I go, it's probably just locked up. I'll hold the power button down, do the volume tricks, whatever you need to do, restart the phone, right? Well, I felt it vibrate, but I saw nothing on the screen. And I'm like, this isn't good. And so I started digging, and I did all the different techniques. Me being the geek that I am, I connected it to my computer, and I was able to get into fast boot mode, but it wasn't coming out of it. It was just stuck in fast boot mode.
Okay.
And so now I contacted Google support.
I was going to ask because I guess they have pretty famously good support.
Yeah, they usually do. And I say usually when you're under warranty. And so this particular phone was actually a warranty replacement for my Nexus 6P. I had major issues with my 6P towards the end of its life. And so they gave me a Pixel because they were no longer making the 6P. I got the Pixel, worked great for about 2 years. So they said, I'm sorry, Chase, we can't help you. You're out of warranty. And I'm like, out of warranty? I just got this phone. They go, no, you don't understand. When we gave you that phone, it took over the warranty of your old phone. And so it ran out back in like December of last year. I'm like, oh, great. So I'm like, well, wait a minute. I bought it on a credit card, right? And with your credit card, most major credit card, check with your provider. But like with Costco, it extends your warranty for another like year or 2 years. It's a really great benefit. A lot of people don't take advantage of it because you have to jump through hoops to take advantage of it. So I decided to go ahead and see what happens and file a claim. And they told me, okay, no problem. We just need you to get a repair estimate from a certified repair shop and see if it's repairable before we replace it. I'm like, yeah, that's totally fair. I understand that. So there's a repair shop that opened up down the street from where I live, and went down there. And I took my phone in, and I said, yeah, no screen. They're like, yeah, we're going to have to get a new screen. I'm like, what do you mean new screen? They go, well, we have to check the screen first. It could be just a screen issue. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's true. So I gave it to them. They kept it for a couple of days, and they came back to me, and they go, well, you're right, man. It wasn't the screen, and we tried everything, and we couldn't fix it. I'm like, really? And so essentially what they I guess they have some sort of back channel because they gave me the invoice, and it says they contacted Google. They advised them to do a power flush of the phone, whatever the hell that is. And so they replaced the screen. They replaced everything. They didn't have any motherboards or anything for the phone, but they couldn't get it to work. And they said, we are deeming this unrepairable. We cannot repair this phone. We're sorry. And so they gave me the invoice. And so when they put it all back together, they cracked the screen.
Oh.
And so they were like, well, do you need the screen replaced? I mean, I know your phone doesn't work, but it's on us. You know, we'll definitely make it right. And I go, well, I don't want you to waste the product inventory or anything on this. I mean, it's a broken phone. But I said, can I reserve it just in case my credit card company wants the physical device? Because then they could come back and say,
yeah, that's good thinking.
Yeah. So they go, yeah, no problem. We'll put notes on your file. And so I filed a claim, and so we'll see what happens. So in the meantime, I was on a really old Nexus 6, and then the 6P I messed around with.
Yeah, that's what I have.
And so I did a lot of shopping, and I know a lot of people are like, well, why didn't you get the Pixel 2? Or, that sort of, and I'm like, well, phone jack to me is still important. I know some other people, they don't care, or they're flexible or whatever. I don't know, really old in quotation marks, yes.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so after all the research, I decided to pull the trigger on the LG G7 ThinQ.
Congratulations.
And
That's awesome.
It's got a headphone jack.
Yep.
And actually, the sound
pretty good.
Is amazing. Actually,
that's a big thing for you and I.
Well, just a speaker. It has like this down-firing like super speaker where if you put the phone flat on a surface, it resonates.
I like that.
It sounds really good.
LG's made some good hardware for a while.
You know, the only
they don't
problem
get
with
enough recognition.
The only problem with LG, I think, and I was reading an article and I'm inclined to agree,
What's that?
is their release cycle. They do it during the off months that like Apple and Google announces their big
You think
phones.
that's bad?
Well,
then they get mid-cycle folks like you.
Well, they got me, but they also got me because of the incredible deal I got on it. I mean, when this phone came out, like only 2 months ago, it came out like 2-3 months ago. It was selling for like $800-900 unlocked.
Yeah,
I got it for $599 unlocked, tax free.
Ooh, what's the storage on that thing?
Well, here's the best part. So this one has 64 gigs, but it has an SD card slot.
Oh, nice.
I bought a 200 gig SD card. Now it has 260
Boom.
gigs.
Nice.
Which is great for 4K video. That's why I got the big one.
Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about this week on the tech show of Unfilter. So
I got you on chat there.
I see that. Thank you.
There's a web browser too. It's basic, but it's there.
I won't need it just because.
All right. You
Yeah.
got it on the phone? You good?
I could if I needed it there.
Just for the sack?
Well, no sack this week.
Oh, okay.
Because it's prepping for next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's as they say, marinating.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Unfilter program. That's Unfilter proper now. Please bang suggest as we go along. We'd love to have your suggestions and title this Shenanigans. And it begins in a 3, in a 2.
We may need some faith healers.
This is Unfilter, episode 289 for August 1st, 2018.
President Trump and his longtime fixer and lawyer Michael Cohen. ABC News has learned tonight that Michael Cohen now says that President Trump did in fact know about the meeting with Russians in the Trump Tower before the election and that he knew about the meeting before it happened. after dirt on Hillary Clinton was promised from a foreign adversary.
Hey everybody, happy August. I can't even speak. Happy August 1st as we move into the dog days of summer once again. Thank you for joining us here on Unfiltered, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly show about the news you shouldn't be watching.
It's October.
Oktoberfest.
Yeah, it's when August and October all run together because it just gets really hot.
It's warm. I mean, now I know a lot of our friends across the country and around the world, they're like, you guys complaining about heat in the Northwest.
Yeah, no,
Actually, last week, it got like mid-90s, close to 100. A lot of places here in the Northwest don't have air conditioning.
No, that is a thing.
Including JB1. I mean, you have this,
But it's too loud.
It's too loud. You can't use it during recording.
No, we're not prepared for it.
That voice you hear, that's Chris Fisher.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man.
Good to be here. 289. You know what that means? 290 next week. And we were clipping right up until the very end this week. You had a heck of a drive up to the studio. And so I was
amazing. Yeah.
It was really something watching that traffic. There was literally times where I thought Glimpse had just stopped tracking you.
No, I just stopped moving.
For a long time, dude. Like I was like, oh, cheers.
I swear, I think the city of Seattle. I mean, they
It's
won't
true.
say it publicly.
No, I have seen it. I saw some
They
news
don't like
somewhere
cars. They
when
hate
I
them.
was in. When I saw, I was going to send this to you. I almost thought I did.
Yeah.
When I was in Texas, I saw a news story go by that they've done a study and they determined there is no solution to the traffic.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
That's them saying, you know what? We give up.
Yeah, we give up. We give up. But that's not. People aren't here for the weather and the traffic. That's not. That's what they tune to the radio for. No, this is the Unfiltered program, and we have much to get into, including the things with Michael Cohen, the things with the Russia, the things with the North Korea, the trade war, and of course a huge overtime. So you know where we must start in all of this, sir.
We start with ASL.
It is the time for the cyber, and we start with a traditional cyber this week.
Right now, the city of Houston training with tech experts from West Point to learn how to prepare for and respond to cyber attacks that have crippled major American cities. The three-day exercise involving around 150 people from the public and private spheres is the first of its kind here in Texas.
So these tech experts come in. The media is not allowed to be there for any of it except for just this early stage. And these tech experts pretend different ways that you might get phished.
Adam Bennett joins us now.
Yeah, this is very key, Adam.
It sure is.
Yeah, this thing that we didn't say is more than anything bad is very key. This is very key, Adam.
Fine here in Texas. Adam Bennett joins us now.
Yeah, this is very key, Adam.
It sure is, Lynn. And not only will this help Houston, but Mayor Sylvester Turner says this training also helps the entire region because we are so interconnected.
And maybe the world.
And after major cyber attacks on Atlanta and Baltimore,
I remind you, the major cyber attack on Atlanta he's referring to was ransomware.
He says the worst plan is not having one.
Imagine dealing with a hurricane and someone taking out your city's utilities and infrastructure at the same time.
Something that we really need to practice.
That's the nightmare scenario city, state, and federal officials, seen here in this footage provided by the city of Houston, are prepping for.
Yeah, I see this footage, and I see these generic attack maps on a globe up on a projector. They say this is the nightmare scenario. I'll give you a different version of the nightmare scenario. The other version of the nightmare scenario is a completely unprepared, inept federal and state government that doesn't know the difference between ransomware, phishing, and an actual network intrusion. And they are the ones that have been tasked to protect our information and our infrastructure. That is my nightmare scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Inside Houston's emergency center.
We have to be right every time. They keep trying, but it only takes one real threat to get through.
In March, hackers struck Atlanta and demanded money to reactivate their systems.
Hackers struck Atlanta and then demanded money to reactivate their systems. That is a truthful statement only in the loosest of sense. A user stumbles upon an executable. That user, who has inappropriate access to the network shares because of poor network architecture and poor security practices, is able to encrypt her files and the network servers over the map drives files.
Okay.
Then, with the nature of ransomware, it comes up with a message that says, if you want your files back, you have to give us money at this Bitcoin address.
Yep.
And then we send you the key. There is not an active penetration into the network where the code is executed by skilled government-paid hackers that then spread it across the machines, across your network. There's not somebody going around encrypting all of the files and then holding a key and going, ha ha ha. It is all automated. It's all cheap scripts that people have thrown together and then they hide behind cryptocurrency. That's all it is. But yet it's positioned as these elite hackers dropping in like Tom Cruise from the ceiling on a line and getting access to the mainframe and then encrypting all of the files.
We have to be right every time. They keep trying, but it only takes one real threat to get through.
In March, hackers struck Atlanta and demanded money to reactivate their systems.
Literally in Atlanta, it shut them down.
And Houston proper has nearly 5 times as many people and takes up about 4.5 times as much space.
We have too many assets that exist in the city of Houston for us to sit back and wait for it to come, and then we're in responsive mode.
Now, this 3-day exercise,
communications is critical, how we message the public,
is a chance for the key players to listen, discuss, and train.
And we have 2 full rooms of computer people where they're
they don't show it, but there's a PowerPoint presentation where they're like looking at like network diagrams, but they're like super fake, high production, almost like Hollywood-looking network diagrams.
Implementing different things and taking down different utilities like the chief talked about to make things a little bit more difficult in a real-life scenario.
Now, this training is closed to the media and wraps up tomorrow.
Oh, well.
Oh. Well, then.
Let's make sure we spread all of the good news.
Yeah.
You know, one of the ways I've always found to keep people safe when it comes to cybersecurity is not to share good information. I've always found that to work.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah. This is an interesting idea. You remember when Obama came into the White House, he really pushed how he inherited a bad economy. You know, Bush gave him a bad economy.
Yep, gave him a raw
he
deal.
turned that around,
Yeah.
and they inherited this bad economy. They inherited this problem, and, you know, it was up to the Obama administration to solve it. That is now the exact script that the Trump administration is using for cybersecurity.
At the outset of this administration, it became...
This is Pence at a Department of Homeland Security Cyber Awareness Summit that was going on today.
It became clear from early on. In a very real sense, we inherited a cyber crisis.
There it is.
Last administration all but neglected cybersecurity, even though the digital threats were growing more numerous and more dangerous by the day.
That's
Make
right.
no mistake about it.
No mistake.
Those days are over.
Mike Pence, the vice president in New York, suggesting the Obama administration is to blame for the cybersecurity issues plaguing our country. New York Republican Congressman Peter King on the House Intelligence Homeland Security Committee. Sir, how are you? Seems like everybody just points fingers at everybody else. No, you did it. No, you didn't. You didn't follow through. No, it's your job. It's your responsibility. Where's this stop?
Hashtag blame Barry. I like it, System T. That's good. System T in the chat room's come up with a new hashtag that we could roll with. What do you say we move out of cyber and move into Russia? There's not a lot this week to cover in the Russia investigation. And there's been a big story going around right now. The potential Russia intel agency-linked hackers have been going after a Democratic senator.
Breaking news tonight. What appears to be the first identified case of Russian election interference in the 2018 midterms.
Oh, there's okay. Check one. All right, so we've got the first indication of Russian interference in the 2018 midterms. Okay, check.
Okay.
The Daily Beast reporting tonight that, quote, the Russian intelligence agency behind the 2016 election cyber attacks targeted Senator Claire McCaskill.
Now, before we go on, can you think of anything that really stands out about Senator Claire McCaskill? Because, I mean, I couldn't, to be honest with you.
Was she involved in something, or she came out with some sort of major announcement? I mean, there's got to be something.
I know that she is in the potential for losing. She's in, like, she's considered potentially lose. She's in a weak position right now for the midterm reelection.
She's a red state, isn't she?
Yeah, so I know that she's vulnerable. So there's that aspect to this.
Right. As she began her 2018 reelection campaign in earnest. The Missouri Democrat is in a tight race for her seat, and she's been a critic of both Russia and Donald Trump.
I mean, she has been kind of critical of Donald Trump. She hasn't really had any strong positions on Russia. She hasn't been really deeply involved in any of the Russia investigations.
Yeah.
In a statement tonight, Senator McCaskill said, quote, I will not be intimidated. I said it before, and I will say it again. Putin is a thug and a bully. Andrew Desiderio is one of the reporters who broke that exclusive story for the Daily Beast. He joins me tonight. All right, Andrew, what happened and when did it happen?
Now, that's a pretty easy question. Could just give a super straightforward answer.
So what we know is that the Russian GRU, which is the main intelligence directorate in Moscow, ordered even more cyber attacks against American entities, specifically targeting Democratic candidates. This is the exact same tactic that they used in 2016, that they were actually indicted for just a couple of weeks ago by the Mueller probe. And what they
they'll stop me here for a second. It's really kind of pathetic that with all of their resources and all of their four-dimensional chess playing, their best Russian hackers, the best they can do is phishing attacks. Like, it's so pathetic if this is true.
Well, or to flip it on its end, Chris, maybe that's the only reason why the phishing attacks are successful is because everything else is secure and solid,
Yeah.
and people are just stupid and they're just clicking the links.
That sounds like politicians.
Yeah.
They did was they used what's called a phishing operation, where they try to trick certain people into changing their passwords, and it leads them to a page that looks like they're actually changing their password.
There's somebody I know that fell into that trap. What's his name?
Reality, it's just a way for Russian intelligence services to infiltrate that computer network. That's what we saw happen to John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign chairman, when his emails were released. So it's the exact same tactic that they used just 2 years ago.
Same tactic. I mean, the media has weaponized phishing attacks in a way that, I mean, they were like a benign, ankle-biting form of attack before the election.
But look at the good news, Chris. Now when you send anybody a link, they won't click on it.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Right, so Podesta gets hacked. He gets an email saying, this is from Gmail. You need to change your password. He actually passes by a person who says, you do need to do that.
Yeah, actually, that is something that we don't give Podesta enough credit for.
That IT person should be fired.
Yeah, John Podesta did pass it by the IT guy, and the IT guy claims that it was a typo when he said it was okay to click.
How do you typo that?
It was something like that email looks legitimate, and he meant to write looks delegitimate or something like that.
I would just say don't open. I mean,
I know.
delete.
It's such bullshit.
Yeah.
He goes to a page that looks like a Gmail page. He puts in his password, and boom, they've got his email.
Boom.
So you have located forensic evidence. The exact same thing happened here.
That's correct, and we traced it right back to the Russian GRU.
You know that for a fact?
Yes, we do.
So when did this happen?
So this happened, the first known...
Now remember, the senator said she's not going to be intimidated by this. Putin is a thug and a bully.
...incident was sort of late last year.
Oh.
We have what was a screen cap.
Oh, that's okay.
From a saved page that Microsoft captured from September 26th, in which a senior policy aide for the senator had actually clicked the link and went to change his password.
So a policy aide for the senator a year ago in September clicked a phishing link.
Yes.
And that's what's generating all of this news. And it's a phishing link too. It's really pathetic. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a witch hunt, but you can kind of see where somebody might call it.
Moments ago, I was going to begin with this, but let me bring you some breaking news that we just got from the president. Guys, let's throw it up on the screen here.
Breaking news, Chase.
Breaking news.
This is CNN Breaking News.
The president just directly directing his attorney general to...
I'm sorry, what was that?
That was directly directing.
Uh-huh. Well, no, according to Giuliani, should is not an order, it's a suggestion.
And the Mueller probe, the Russia probe. Let me read you part of this tweet from the president. This is a terrible situation, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions should stop this rigged witch hunt right now before it continues to stain our country any further. Patrick Healy, your read on this? Caitlin Collins is tweeting, our reporter, this is a first, that he's directly directing, if you will, the AG to stop it.
She knows it sounds dumb, but she can't think of what else to say, you know? So that's the big upset, is that Trump is now...
but look at the timing of the tweets today. The first day of the Manafort trial kind of wrapped up yesterday. Information, I don't know if you have any clips on, leaked out about the Mueller sending over a letter to the Trump team. They replied. There's negotiations for the what do you call it, testimony that probably will not happen. So I think, a lot of it, I mean, and if you look at all the president's tweets this morning,
look at the tweets.
He was venting. I mean, he was going off. There was a lot of tweets. Now, it is kind of conflicting, though. You got to think back a couple of press secretaries ago with Mr. Spicy in there. So, someone, person asked him, you know, are these official statements from the president, these tweets? And he goes, yes, these are official statements from the president, that these are official things.
Right.
And now today it's, no, this is not official. This is just opinion. This is his thoughts and feelings.
Yes.
I'm tired of that game. Just come on, man.
I do have a clip that may make you feel better.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. I think it might make you feel better. I'm not sure. We'll see.
All right.
But those tweets may come up again.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they may come up again. Now, there has been a lot of these statements that have been made via Twitter, like the I knew nothing about the meeting with the Russian lawyer in the hotel room with Don Jr.
Yeah.
That's a good example of a tweet.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. We're going to begin with the politics lead and one of the biggest bombshells to date in the Russia investigation, reportedly coming from the man who once said he would take a bullet for President Trump. Now, this bombshell goes right to the heart of this question, which I cannot say any better than the late Republican Senator Howard Baker said in 1973 as Watergate was consuming the nation.
Oh, Watergate.
Yeah.
What did the president know and when did he know it?
We're really kind of doing a setup here. I mean, it's not really necessary to play the old Watergate clips and all of that stuff.
It's consuming the nation.
What did the president know and when did he know it?
Now, to be fair, Chris, let's go back to target audience for a second. You know, do a little inside baseball TV statement, okay?
Sure.
So you got Jake here. He's got the Minecraft mug on his desk. He's got kids. He's a young, hip guy. He's got all these leads, got all these things happening. His target audience is who?
I don't really know. I mean, CNN's demo isn't kids. It's not young people.
No, it's not kids, but it is young.
I don't know.
35, 54, okay?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. No, that is.
And you look at people aged 35 to about maybe 50-ish, they don't know. They don't remember. Seriously. So, and you know, obviously they're setting up the narrative. I get that.
It feels like you're trying to exactly. They're trying to
I get
frame
that.
it.
Yeah.
So here's a little comparison, just because this should be fascinating because I have this. Here's the Fox News version of kind of the same news item.
President Trump and his
nope, sorry, that's ABC. Although we have that too, which we'll get to. Here's the Fox News version.
All right.
Breaking tonight, Michael Cohen, President Trump's former attorney, is claiming the president knew in advance about that Trump Tower meeting back in June 2016, in which Russians were supposedly going to offer campaign dirt on Hillary Clinton. That, according to CNN. Of course, in all their breathless coverage, they seem to be ignoring the important nugget. Quote, to be clear, these sources said Cohen does not have evidence, such as audio recordings, to corroborate his claim. But
it is interesting now, at around the same point into the news item, Tapper was playing the Watergate clip, and she's reading a statement that says he doesn't have sources to discredit Cohen. You see the two different narratives that are happening here.
Yeah.
Very different coverage from the two different networks. Not to be all that surprising. And then somewhere in the middle, you have ABC.
Longtime fixer and lawyer Michael Cohen. ABC News has learned tonight that Michael Cohen now says that President Trump did in fact know about the meeting with Russians in the Trump Tower before the election, and that he knew about the meeting before it happened, after dirt on Hillary Clinton was promised from a foreign adversary. This will likely interest Robert Mueller, who, by the way, today was photographed, seen right here waiting at the airport in D.C. there on the left.
See, this is the real world of these politicians. Like, we visualize that, like, Mueller in these, like, ivory towers and all of this, but here is an image of everyday guys waiting to board a plane. One dude with a hat, which that's Trump Jr. over there waiting to get on the phone.
Upper right, yeah.
And then you got Bob sitting there reading a newspaper like an old man on the left. And they're just sitting there going about their day.
You know what I think, though? I mean, you look at the other good people on their laptops waiting for their flight. They have no idea. It's
they really don't.
It's like you got Bob Mueller right there. You got Don John right there. Nobody
cares.
Nobody cares.
Because not very many people really follow the news.
No.
And I bet you most people couldn't tell you who that guy in the hat was.
No.
I bet you most people couldn't tell you who the Attorney General is or who runs the State Department. I bet you a lot of people wouldn't know who runs the CIA anymore. even though it was a huge controversy when she was trying to get approved.
Right.
Like, it's a really weird world that we live in, because every now and then things like this remind me that we are in a deep bubble, that we don't even realize it, because it's one that matters, that impacts everyone's world, and yet the people just go along blissfully unaware.
Mueller, who, by the way, today was photographed, seen right here waiting at the airport in D.C. there on the left. Not far away behind him there, you see Donald Trump Jr. standing in line. Tonight, Mueller's office issuing a statement after that photo. And here's ABC's Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, President Trump fiercely denying the explosive allegation from his former lawyer and fixer Michael Cohen. Multiple sources tell ABC News Cohen claims Trump knew in advance about that infamous June 2016 Trump Tower meeting. His son, Donald Jr., son-in-law Jared Kushner, and campaign chairman Paul Manafort sitting down with a Russian lawyer with ties to the Kremlin. Trump Jr. had been promised high-level and sensitive documents that would incriminate Hillary Clinton as part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump. The president's son has repeatedly said his father didn't learn of the meeting until well after the election.
Did you tell your father anything about this?
No. It was such a nothing. There was nothing to tell. I mean, I wouldn't have even remembered it until you start scouring through the stuff. It was literally just a wasted 20 minutes, which was a shame.
The president also insists he was in the dark.
Did you know at the time that they had the meeting?
No, I didn't know anything about the meeting. But you know, you gave us. It must have been a very unimportant meeting, because I never even heard about it.
When news of the meeting broke, Trump Jr. released a misleading statement implying it was about Russian adoptions. Team Trump initially said the president had nothing to do with that either.
The statement that was released on Saturday was released by Donald Trump Jr., and I'm sure in consultation with his lawyers. The president wasn't involved in that.
It was later revealed the president actually dictated his son's misleading statement. The White House forced to backtrack.
He weighed in, offered suggestion like any father would do.
Today's allegations mark a major escalation in the standoff between the president and Cohen, his longtime confidant.
I always liked Michael.
Are you?
And he's a good person.
The president's new attorney once praised Cohen.
The man is an honest, honorable lawyer.
But now
he's been lying all week. I mean, he's been lying for years.
I love that back-to-back edit, by the way. That was
That's
funny.
good. That's good. Yeah, so Giuliani's been going out there and just smearing Cohen, just smearing him. Because the issue is that Cohen claims that Trump knew about the payments. Cohen claims that Trump knew about the meeting.
Well, he can say all he wants right now, but if he's on the stand and he's under oath,
he's got to back it up.
He's got to back it up.
Back it up.
Absolutely.
I thought let's just take a moment and watch Giuliani here in his natural habitat.
If this Michael Cohen evidence stands up, if Michael Cohen does testify to this, this is potentially something that can prove the president colluded.
That evidence on its face, if it was supported, would be an impeachable offense. That would be an article of impeachment, no question about it.
This is very damning for Trump.
There's criminal liability here for the president on the horizon with these claims.
Well,
Is that
a lot of
true?
laughter.
Rudy Giuliani, President Trump's attorney, former New York City mayor.
I've been sitting here looking in the federal code trying to find collusion as a crime.
It's not.
Collusion is not a crime. Everything that's been released so far shows the president to be absolutely innocent. He didn't do anything wrong.
Is the president's lawyer arguing that collusion isn't a crime? I mean, he's right. Technically, collusion isn't a crime, but that seems like a weird message to start with.
Yeah, I don't. Why would you
even say that?
Why are you?
It sounds like you're trying to cover your bases just in case collusion is
well,
now proved.
yeah, well, that's the thing, right? We've been seeing it all along. It's been no collusion, no collusion, no collusion.
No collusion.
Now it's collusion's not a crime, but I didn't collude anyway.
Yeah. That's good. I love it. Yeah. Now, okay, let's watch this and talk about it.
It's not a crime. Everything that's been released so far shows the president to be absolutely innocent. He didn't do anything wrong. The last two tapes are evidence in his favor. I mean, he wants to do a transaction by check, wants to do it as a corporate transaction, perfectly legal. Second one, he describes in great detail the Stormy Daniels deal.
The transaction to a Playboy model that he said to the American people that he never been with.
Well, yeah, but now that's obvious he had been with, when he did try to pay her off, he tried to do it via a business transaction, which would be traceable.
Right. And so, I mean, those points are always like skipped away or pushed away, and they don't even talk about that.
Yeah, boy, Veritundasi's got to go. I'd say if he's going to ever stick around, this would be an episode to stick around. But that's okay, Mr. Veritunda. Thank you very much. Be sure you tune back into the Patreon segment later on.
Yeah.
So what I feel like Rudy is doing here is trying to cover all of the bases.
To Cuomo, and he says the president didn't know about it. The president only had the money. I paid for it myself. It wasn't a campaign contribution. Now, Cuomo didn't know he was being recorded, which is pretty outrageous. In fact, he went so far as to hide his cell phone and pretend he wasn't recording it. And then Lanny Davis goes on and says Cohen never intended to deceive. Now, if I tell you I'm not recording and I record, haven't I intended to deceive and in fact deceive? That may be a punishable offense for all those morons out there.
So the thing is, I don't feel like if Trump knew about the Tower meeting, which I would assume if Trump's son is going to get dirt about Hillary Clinton, that seems like the kind of thing when you have a top-down run organization you tell the boss about.
There are still some unexplained situations like the unlisted phone numbers and the calls to Trump's office. But around the time before and after the meeting,
does it seem implausible to you that he would know about the meeting? That seems,
absolutely not.
That seems plausible.
The meeting happened with his son in his building while he was there.
It just seems.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It just seems pretty plausible to me. I don't think I'm ready to get all worked up about collusion about it because it sounds like
there is no collusion, so don't worry about it.
Well, is going to meet with a Russian lawyer that might have dirt on Hillary Clinton, is that collusion? I don't know if it is. If that's collusion, then the DNC and the law firm for the Clintons hiring Fusion GPS to work with Christopher Steele to interface with Russian government agents to get dirt on Donald Trump is absolutely collusion because they were government officials that Steele was working with. Like that to me, if meeting with a Russian lawyer is collusion, then what happened with Fusion GPS and the DNC is totally collusion.
I don't think it's necessary, the meeting per se, because remember, it's just about child's adoptions, right? So, I mean, seriously, nothing to worry about
No,
there.
you're probably right. Okay, yeah, why do I even care? Either way, it's a weird kind of tough spot for the Trump team because now you've got lawyer versus former lawyer.
Well, I can tell you this. A place that the president does not want to be is having his current attorney firing back at his longtime attorney.
Why not?
It's not a healthy spot for Team Trump because Michael Cohen was a trusted fixer and attorney and confidant for many, many years for President Trump prior to him being president. And if he's decided it's in his interest to flip on Trump, whether he's telling new truths or inventing new stories to help his own help, save his own skin. That is a war of words that is not particularly helpful to Trump. For example, watching Rudy Giuliani go on TV and parsing whether certain recordings cut off at a certain time and asking why that's the case, I mean, not a healthy spot.
So a couple of developments today that we've seen, and that somewhat coming from Giuliani and other reporting, and that's that there may not be any other tapes with the president's voice on them.
Right.
But there are a lot of tapes, which begs the question, how many people was he recording, Kennedy? We don't know.
No, we don't know. Maybe we'll find out. But yeah, we were talking about Manafort. Manafort's trial is underway. It's now in day 2.
President Trump's former campaign chairman Paul Manafort facing day 2 of his trial for alleged financial fraud after both sides laid the groundwork for what's likely to be a dramatic showdown between Manafort and his longtime deputy and the government's key witness, Rick Gates. If convicted, Manafort is facing a maximum sentence of over 300 years on 18 charges, including filing false tax returns, failing to report foreign bank accounts, and defrauding several banks.
Now, it is probably worth pointing out, none of that says Russia. But, what do they take Al Capone out on? Right? Tax evasion.
Yep.
That's what they get you on when you're a gangster.
Prosecutors portraying Manafort as a, quote, shrewd liar who opened 30 bank accounts in 3 foreign countries to avoid paying taxes on $60 million of income from his work in Ukraine, including helping former Ukrainian president and Putin ally Viktor Yanukovych.
I kind of wonder if that might be why he's getting it so hard. So not only are they going after him because of his connections to Trump and they're keeping him in solitary, the man is in solitary right now, but it's probably because he was on the wrong side. See, our guys
fuck the EU
wanted the other Ukrainian president to win, and the Russians and the Democratic somebody, I can't remember, wanted this guy to win. There's like 2 different states basically, that were funneling money to Manafort's company to help promote the existing Ukrainian president, the one that we were attempting to overthrow.
Fuck the EU.
Overthrow. To basically keep him to go to the States and promote as like a lobbyist for the president that we were against. See, I know that, boy, I just really butchered all of that. But what I'm trying to say is you got to wonder, since he backed the wrong guy, if that isn't part of the veracity in which they are pursuing him, because he was essentially helping out the other team.
Including helping former Ukrainian president and Putin ally Viktor Yanukovych. Prosecutors arguing that the money went towards supporting Manafort's lavish lifestyle, including multiple homes, expensive cars and watches, even a $15,000 ostrich jacket. The defense pointing the finger at Gates, arguing he was the mastermind behind the scheme who swindled Manafort. Gates is cooperating with the special counsel after pleading guilty to conspiring to defraud the United States and lying to the FBI, a fact the defense plans to use to discredit his testimony.
Also nothing related to Russia.
Gates also worked for the Trump campaign, but neither the president nor the investigation into potential Russia collusion are likely to be addressed in this case.
This trial obviously centers on matters that have nothing to do with the campaign.
The Trump administration continuing to distance itself from Manafort.
Paul Manafort does not know anything.
Giuliani again.
Nor could it be possible he did. He was with him for 4 months.
Manafort has nothing to do with our campaign.
Despite praising his work during the 3 months he led the president's campaign.
Paul Manafort just came on. He's great.
Bringing a professional in like Paul helped us grow the campaign.
Sources tell CNN that publicly the White House strategy is to downplay the proceedings. But behind the scenes, the president is keeping a close eye on the trial, watching TV coverage and asking his legal team for updates.
Interesting to see what's going on. There is really probably not much potential impact on the Russia probe unless, I guess, well, that's my opinion. Depends on who you ask.
Special Prosecutor Bob Mueller's team loses this case. Is the Russia probe in trouble? The White House says it has nothing to do with the Russia collusion, and the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, is calling it illegitimate. Here to sort it all out, we have Fox News senior judicial analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano.
The judge.
You were surprised the judge
I was shocked.
made that
I mean,
comment, huh?
judges have an unwritten rule not to interrupt opening and closing statements unless something so wrong is being said that it's going to infect the trial. But this judge is not keen on the government's case. This is the federal judge who basically said to the prosecutors in the courtroom, Bob Mueller has sent you here to squeeze this guy, points at Paul Manafort, to get information out of him that will help indict, charge, embarrass, or impeach the president of the United States, and I don't want to be part of it.
Wow. The judge said that.
And then they persuaded him that it was a legitimate case, and that's why the case is going forward. So there's two arguments here.
Okay.
One is the judge is right. The only reason they are prosecuting Paul Manafort is because they want him 2 trials, 2 months in solitary confinement. They're imposing about the most legal pressure they can possibly put on an innocent person. They want him to squeal on something, they don't know what, on Donald Trump. The other argument is they're prosecutors. If they're looking for Russian collusion and they stumble on bank fraud, they can't look the other way. They have to keep digging and prosecute the bank fraud.
Part of the problem with the special prosecutor.
What do you think it is, Chase?
Well, it's hard to say.
Maybe it's a little bit of A, a little bit of B.
A little A and B.
You know, why not have a little all of the above?
I mean,
Everybody
I do
wins.
agree with the judge that, during the course of an investigation, if they discover, illegal happenings, you got to go forward, right? You got to push it.
You'd like to think so.
You'd hope so.
You would hope so, right?
Yeah, I mean, for all of our sakes and justice and, being treated fairly.
There's a story going around right now that kind of bothers me a little bit. My grandpappy, had a big farm, really big farm, big farmer. And I really hate the way that farmers get used as political pawns in international trade wars. And depending on what angle you look at the story, it is a disaster for farmers, or it's going to finally fix things after years of doing things the wrong way. Either way, it's going to hurt in the meantime.
President Trump on a tour de trade defending his controversial tariffs.
U.S. steel is back.
That's easy to do in front of this group, steel workers helped by his steel and aluminum tariffs, but many more industries use metal than make it, and they're feeling the pinch from retaliatory measures other countries are now slapping on the U.S. That includes Coca-Cola, which says it's raising soda prices.
No!
Oh,
but
darn.
my fat.
Of course, it flows through our supply chain in all sorts of different ways, and ultimately that will have to pass through.
It's not just manufacturers hurting. Despite the president's promise to make farmers great again, many are still waiting.
They've taken beans down $2 a bushel, over $2 a bushel. That's a 20% pay cut. That's huge.
Dave Kestel blames retaliatory tariffs, not the president.
Now, if you ask him why, he doesn't blame the president. In fact, if they didn't cut him short, the answer they would give you is because there is a bit of a philosophy at work here that is short-term pain for long-term gain. I don't really know if that's the plan, but the White House is authorizing $12 billion of tax dollars to help relieve the pressure.
With money that we don't have because we're having record deficits because they cut the tax rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
President Trump, after igniting what many consider to be a trade war and American farmers in some cases paying the price as other countries now slap tariffs to retaliate. Well, the president tonight is now promising farmers $12 billion in taxpayer money to pay them back after the effects of the president's own tariffs. ABC's Terry Moran at the White House.
In Missouri today, President Trump admitted that American farmers, many in states he won in 2016, are becoming collateral damage in his escalating trade wars, and he promised better days ahead.
The farmers will be the biggest beneficiary. Watch. We're opening up markets. You watch what's going to happen.
So the bet that they're making with the tax cuts and with this $12 billion in relief money is that the results it will cause in the economy will earn more than it costs to pull these levers. So that's the big gamble.
Just be a little patient.
But and he might be right. If you look at the world from the lens of China, there may be some logic to it. Most farmers seem to be pretty open if you read what's being printed out there. But I can understand, like, if Carl at System 76, a Linux hardware manufacturer, was tweeting about how with these recent changes, if they import a whole computer, like it's a standard tax rate, it's like 5% or something. Okay. But if they import just the motherboard, it now has like a 25% tariff on it. So
whoa.
So it makes assembling machines here in the United States way more cost prohibitive for System 76 potentially. It sounds like from that tweet. So it's not all roses.
I mean, and when he says, you just got to be patient, it's easy for him to say those things, but, and obviously that's why they're trying to push this this farming bill to help out the farmers. But these are things that if it doesn't turn around, it could destroy families. It could literally shut down farms because 20% is huge.
Yeah, but there is a problem that has to be fixed. And the longer you kick that can down the road, the harder that is going to be felt when you go to fix it.
But couldn't you, if this was the plan the entire time, go and help the farmers ahead of time so they can absorb the impact?
Yeah, maybe.
If that was the plan.
Start that first. Yeah.
Yeah, start that first.
Yeah.
Get them secure and ready. Then you go and fight the trade battle.
There does feel to be a bit of a manic nature to the actions in some regard. You also have to wonder if maybe it's a rush that way by the time of 2020 arrives. A lot of the positive benefits they're betting on have theoretically arrived. That's the other.
The part that bugs me the most, though, is, and it's not necessarily like, the tax rate being cut for businesses. I understand, there's a lot of pro-business out there. I get that. But now you have these huge deficits because obviously the income's not coming in as it once was. On top of that, we want to give the farmers a huge, assist. So how do we pay for it all? That's
future gains, Chase.
Yeah.
It's a problem for future taxpayers.
That's what they keep saying. And then the kids, will have to suffer on it.
The damn kids.
The kids.
Someone think of the kids.
Please think of the kids.
We should probably keep going, though, because we've lost another chat roomer, and we want them to stick around. And there's really only one major topic we have left before the high note, and that's just a little North Korea update. It's been weeks since we've talked about North Korea, so I want to bang this one out real quick.
Where is that at?
North Korea?
Yeah.
It's just above South Korea.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, the thing is, there has been reports of new missiles being constructed.
Uh-oh.
Now, it is the Washington Post, so adjust your skepticism accordingly.
Citing anonymous officials familiar with the intelligence, the Washington Post reporting tonight that North Korea is still working on intercontinental ballistic missiles. The officials who again spoke on condition of anonymity because they were discussing classified intel, reportedly said satellite photos taken in recent weeks support the contention that work continues on the missiles capable of reaching the United States. The White House tonight tells us it doesn't comment on intelligence.
Now, that seems like a big leak, if that's true. That seems like a leak of epic proportions. And so, of course, your good buddy,
my friend,
John Brennan's all over it.
When the president took a fresh victory lap this afternoon for his summit with Kim Jong-un, he might have spoken too soon. The breaking news, new reporting in the Washington Post. Here's the lead. Quote, U.S. spy agencies are seeing signs that North Korea is constructing new missiles at a factory that produced the country's first intercontinental ballistic missiles.
All right, so agencies, too, by the way, which I think is an interesting little point.
Joining me now is John Brennan, the former director of CIA. He's now NBC's senior national security and intelligence analyst. Welcome very much. Good to see you, John. We're seeing satellite photos. I've talked to sources. Courtney Kuby has as well, confirming all of this information. Wall Street Journal as well. A lot of signs that North Korea is continuing to build. They discontinued testing months and months ago, as the president has said, with great pride. But the fact is, if they're now building, could this mean that they finished testing because they were moving to a new production stage?
Now, he has been waiting for this moment.
Hey, congratulations on 40 years of outstanding professionalism. You've done a great job in educating the American public.
All right, I can't stand these two sucking each other's dick anymore. He basically just says this whole thing was expected. Now, I point out, how do they really know if this is true or not? First of all, it starts in the Washington Post. Second of all, it's anonymous intel sources. Third of all, can they really tell if they're intercontinental ballistic missiles from satellite, or does that require another source of
I will say this.
evidence?
Google Earth is really good when you can go and zoom in on your backyard and actually see, you know, the
It's
tiles
true.
of your patio.
Oh, I imagine they have much better than that.
So exactly, that's what I was going to say. Now, obviously, we've seen leaked information to the Post and other press outlets before. Some of it comes true, and we hear about it. Some of it kind of falls by the wayside. But yeah, it's something
interesting
to look
watch,
at.
because I'll tell you what, if it doesn't go the right way, you know what's going to happen. They'll never let Trump.
Hey.
They'll never let it go. They'll never let it go. If it turns out that this whole thing blows up in his face. And I didn't have any good clips for it, but there's also now talk of a no conditions meeting with Iran, which that was one of the first stories that happened recently that I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that. And they had the best argument. Like, well, if you're going to meet with North Korea and you're going to meet with Russia, how come you're not going to meet
why
with
not Iran?
Yeah.
And didn't Iran come back and go, no?
Oh, did they?
I thought they did reply.
Oh, okay. Well, it's an interesting, you know what, it's one of the more fascinating, unpredictable things about Donald Trump is an establishment president would never do that.
Wouldn't even mention it.
Even if it meant going to war.
Right. Wouldn't even talk about
That's
it.
a weird thing.
It's odd.
That's the oddest thing, and it really shocked me when I heard that.
Yeah.
So now we have some things to talk about that might shock some of you, and it's
yeah. I was just gonna say, big note. No sack this week. I sent out an email to all the Patreons, all of them. A big public post. Some of you guys tried to hang on, had to fall asleep. I get that. But we're going to give the floor to Chris.
Oh, okay.
Just because of the fact, we have something pretty substantial to announce.
Yeah, and this is something that Chase and I have been talking about for weeks and weeks, and neither one of us really know how to talk about it. But so I wrote down some things.
Oh, wow.
'Cause
That's
otherwise-
unlike you.
I know.
Wait,
but
I will not do that to you. I'm reading this. No, I'm
Oh,
just kidding.
yeah. Some of you probably noticed a few weeks ago, or maybe it was even more than a month now ago, when it seemed like I kind of was, I don't know, how would you describe it? When I was sort of like losing the faith a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so there was a week.
Losing steam.
So there was a week that I wasn't here for some reason. Oh, yeah, it was my anniversary, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And
I just gotten back from
You just
chaos.
gotten back, and you did. I think you did a solo show.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of feedback just because you came. I didn't listen to it, but I got the impression that hey, you're upset that
Yeah, it was just one of those moments where a few things had transpired, and I ended up getting an idea in my head that once I flirted with it about a month ago, I couldn't really shake it. I think the thing is, especially about this show, is I've always known that if I were to just sort of take my foot off the gas even just a little bit with this show and lose a little momentum, that I would be faced with the hard reality that I've been running from. and that is that this show is a full-time job.
Totally.
It's straight up a full-time job.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is I sort of have realized myself losing my edge for the show a little bit. And it's because I know inside, I've known for years, really, but I've been running from it, that I really need to focus either on Unfilter full-time, or I need to focus on the Linux content full-time. They both demand full-time work. And I think while I have been splitting my time, I have caused both of them to suffer a bit. I could have done better if I were giving either one of them more of my attention. And the reality is, there's a more of a passion for Linux and free software, like in my core. Like,
well, that's where you started.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I remember the young little Chris on YouTube making
Right.
how to install
FreeNAS
Linux
or
on
what,
your PS3.
Clonezilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had a thing for it. I mean, politics I started following because my life started getting screwed over by them. But
I blame myself a little bit on the politics side, just because, I was listening to No Agenda, and I was traveling back from Wenatchee one of those days, and Chris Fisher from Jupiter Broadcasting in Washington. I was like, wait, what? Really?
Yeah.
So we started talking. I'm like, we should do a political show. No Agenda does a great show. However, I feel that we could do something different and bring something unique to the table, especially with video and, both of our talents
I feel
together.
like we have.
And I think we definitely have.
Yeah, but the issue is since I took my foot off the gas about a month ago, it has been really hard to give the show 100%.
Yeah.
And the realities of the physical tolls on my body from like late night clipping and 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. work days, like I've developed RSI issues that in part are related to clipping and cutting those clips and being in one spot for so long. And the show's becoming a grind where I'm having to constantly force myself to stay on task. And the thing is, the reality of Unfilter is it demands 100% of a commitment.
Yeah.
If not 110%. And so when I'm doing it now in these last few weeks, I could feel that I just wasn't giving it my best anymore. I could feel like I knew I could do a little bit better. Like I could have gone a little deeper, or this could have been a little tighter. I could tell that
it's something different than hitting the wall. It's a different feeling. I know what you mean.
But when I was kind of thinking about this, when I started thinking, like, I really have these two worlds, the Linux world, the open source free software world, and the Unfiltered news politics world. And I started thinking, well, what if I just lived in the Linux side of the world? I had this visualization that I have not been able to shake since that moment. And I think about, say we're no longer doing this show, and a major political moment happens, like with the Russia investigation, or Trump does meet with Iran, and I don't have to share my personal thoughts about it. Like, I don't have to have an opinion about it. I'm just able to witness something and not have to spring into action, not have to begin clipping, not have to be trying to put together my thoughts on it as fast as I can. I can just watch the news happen like everybody else does. And when I visualize that and that shift, I realize that it is time for me to spin down the show. And I think you were in the same spot, it felt like, after we started talking about it.
Yeah. Politics is very stressful. And it's one of those things where, for me, I don't speak for you or for anybody who's ever been on the show, even going back to our first episode. I've always spoke for me, and I've always tried to tote the line and not be biased in any way. I really have tried to look at the events of the day through the eyes of an outsider and just try to feel of what is right, what is wrong. I've hosted a few shows solo. Maybe just 2 out of the gambit. And even doing those, that like increased the stress level even more. And obviously, for me, my view of politics is going to be different from Veritunda's or yours or anybody's in the chat room. And when it comes to this show, first off, I love hanging out with you, sitting in front of a microphone, and we're able to talk about things that we are very passionate about. However, there's a stress component to that, and that is you got to keep up with everything that's going on.
Yeah.
You can't unplug.
And then once you start to, like, the whole thing starts to
Well,
unravel.
it does because of the fact that now you guys may say to me, well, Chase, you work at a news station. You get to see news all day. You're absolutely right. But I'm not really paying attention to it because I'm fixing things.
And you're not forced to have an opinion about it.
No.
And it makes a difference. Not that you can't. I just the idea of me having an opinion about something, but it doesn't matter. Like if I believe some crazy conspiracy, or
at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, like if I never fully ever commit, even if they find Trump totally colluding with Putin directly, like if they find, and I still refuse to believe it, I can personally refuse to believe it. Like, I don't know. I guess my point is, like, I don't have to sit here and articulate my positions. I can just have them.
Right.
For a while. And it feels like after, I think we've been doing the show for 6 years?
5, maybe?
Yeah. Feels like 10, but I really have,
it does.
But I have really wanted to. Like, I've been really, like, it's been foot all the way down to the floor with this show. The community has been amazing. The patrons have been empowering, and the audience, when I meet them in person, is so gracious about this show. They're so awesome.
Yeah.
That this is a decision that has not been come to lightly. And we've talked about all of it. Could we make it to 300 and all of that? But the reality is, I need to start making personal changes in my life. I need to focus a bit more, and I need to work on my health and a few other things. I need to make a lot of changes, really.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of where I'm at. I'm in my mid-30s now. I've got 3 kids, and I've got a lot to do, and there's only so much time in the day. And the physical toll it's taken, I've got to acknowledge it, because if I don't, then long-term, I could have serious problems. I recently have 2 family members who have worked very hard their whole life. They've gotten to a successful part in their business, and now both of them, one's a man, one's a woman, and they both have been just recently diagnosed with terminal diseases, and they've both just been given a couple of months to live. And that's after like 60 years of slogging it out to get into a financially comfortable position and to get their businesses to a successful spot, which they're people I've looked up to, being a small business owner. And then to watch them both dying now, while they're just finally arriving at the fruits of their riches, or whatever the saying is, the riches of their whatever, the fruits of their labor. I don't know, maybe that could be weighing on me too, but it's part of a bigger thing. Like, it's not something we're doing lightly. It's not because of the money. It's not because of any one particular thing.
That's one thing I want to be clear about, and as I've told you, we're at the highest support level we've ever had in the entire history of this show.
Yep.
And
we didn't, and I want to just step on you for a second there, because I think it's important to point out that we didn't want to phone it in, because that's where we could tell it was starting. At least for me, I don't know about you, I don't want to speak for you, but it was starting to trend in that direction where I was I'm going to be honest, I forgot to do the high note this week.
Well, I
forgot to do the high note this week. How does that happen?
No.
I had to go grab clips as you were sitting there stalling on the live stream for me.
There was a situation, I might as well say it because we're winding things down. And by the way,
this is not
the last episode.
Right.
It will be next week.
Yeah. 290, we wanted to end on 290. We wanted to do it. Just the thing is we can't keep the show going if we're not giving it our all.
Right.
So we wanted to do it while we still were strong.
But there was and I'll share this. You can edit it out later if you don't want.
Oh yeah, like I edit anything.
You just edit. Last week, I was saying, hey, what's the status of the show? Are we doing things or whatever? And he was like, yeah, you're like, there's not a lot going on, or something along those lines.
Well, no, it was more like there's nothing going on that I can really bring myself to talk about.
Right, and I was just like, but there's some things we could talk about, sure,
Yeah, no, it's like there's just the rushes, like everything's really grinding me down, and it was weird because for I would say 280 episodes, maybe 275 episodes, it's never gotten to me.
No.
And then all of a sudden it just the same, like the fact that the same shit just gets rehashed and resold and repackaged, and then people buy it, and now it's official, and it doesn't matter how much we push back. It doesn't matter how much we're just pissing into the wind at the end of the day. And it's, I don't know, it's frustrating.
The one thing that has really waned on me in doing the show over the past 5 years, and we've gone through 3 presidents now. Think about that.
In this show, you mean? Yeah.
Clinton, Obama, and Trump.
Wait, Clinton wasn't in office when we started the show, was he?
Was he?
I think we came in during Obama's
maybe
second term.
Okay. But I know I always did Clinton a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Was that, seeing how things became more and more polarizing. And for someone like me, which I think you know the kind of person that I am, Chris, I do not like conflict. I wish people that they could, try to see some common ground in each other and try to respect one another. And that's why when I've done this show, I have shared my personal opinions about things, but I haven't gone all the way in that because I always try to remain as unbiased as I possibly try to be.
Yeah.
And I look at I am not straight red. I'm not straight blue. I have many crossover personalities.
You know who I think else has done really good at that is producer Matt. He's done a great job of trying to get the right clips and tell both sides of a story, get a couple of different takes, and he's been a huge help. And I think this is going to be good for him too, because think about the amount of news that he and I have to watch on a daily basis, and it's hard on the psyche. So I think this will be good for producer Matt, and there may be some future work we have for him too. In fact, we are putting all of the assets and the IP and all of it on a shelf. It's gonna go down into the Jupiter archives. It will still exist. We still will retain all the assets and all the ownership of the show. We'll have the archive online. The show notes will be available. That stuff will exist, and we'll be back for 290. So we'll also do one more episode. And my thought is other than one thing we're gonna do a little differently is open up the mail sack to everybody.
Yeah. So here's
maybe anything else major than that.
So what will happen with the sack for next week, just to let everybody know, is that so we're recording this right now, Wednesday, August 1st. In just a couple of days, I will put out a Patreon post. I'm not going to do it on the last second of the day because obviously as podcast feeds get filtered out there, people are going to hear this. They're going to want to give us their thoughts, their feelings. So if you have a question, you have a short statement, any kind of words.
Yeah, hopefully not too long.
Not too long. That's why I say short. Short. If it's like a simple question or a simple statement, please reply to the Patreon post at patreon.com/unfilter.
You know what else?
And it'll be opened up to the public.
I'm just jumping all over you today because the other thing I just want to make sure I mention is because she wants a system D is pointing this out. Maybe include in there other political news podcasts that you've really liked.
Yeah.
Obviously, No Agenda's on the list for some of you, but if there's other ones maybe people have not heard of that could get some love as we go on, we could pass the baton around and maybe give people new shows to subscribe to sort of fill that gap a little bit. So please include that too with your feedback. So that's going to be at patreon.com/unfiltered.
It will be there in a few days.
Right. And then the intention will be, I suppose, after next week's episode, I don't know if we can put the patron in read-only mode. You know how that works exactly?
Yeah, I've done some things with that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so that'll be coming. 290 will be coming. We'll probably try to do I suppose a fairly regular episode, so that way you've got one more.
Just an extended mail sack segment.
Yeah, one more. I mean, we'll just keep making the product you've always enjoyed until the very end.
And that's one thing I've also said too is if we go out, I want to go out on a high note. But not only that,
before we run it into the ground, dude.
Seriously, it's one of those things where how many podcasts have you guys listened to out there where all of a sudden the podcast either just disappears, it fades away, they call it pod fading, and you don't put a point in ending the show. And I kind of did that a little bit with my Minecraft show where I let it linger, I think, a little too long. And, you end it, and then, you know what? It frees you up to try other projects and do other things.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm hoping that will be the ultimate result of this. And I want to acknowledge, I had heard from so many people, particularly in person, about how this show was important to you, how you've built a routine around the show. And I want to thank you for that. I don't take that lightly.
No.
That matters a lot to us. And I really appreciate that we've had the opportunity to be part of your lives. And I hope that you don't flame us to death because it's a hard decision for us. Do keep in mind this has not been something that we've come to lightly. We've had a lot of passion and a lot of love for this show, and I think that show has one of the best audiences that I can ever think of. I mean, it's just such a good, fantastic
it's
group.
more than an audience to me. I look at it as a very awesome community, and obviously when we launched the show, some of you guys have been there from the beginning, known Chris for many years for his tech content, and here I am, some guy that no one has ever heard of, and I've
pipes like that, Chase. Somebody better throw a microphone in front of you.
Thanks, man. But I will truly miss just seeing the chat and seeing
hanging
you guys
out
and passionate.
Yeah,
and,
for me this is a live this is a live show that's generally 3 to 4 hours long.
Yeah.
You know, it starts at 3 something. It's 7 p.m. right now. It's a performance for me every week. I show up and I'm live and I perform for 3 to 4 hours. And that's on top of all of the work for the rest of the show. But that's going to be, for me, it's going to fundamentally change my life to have about an hour back every day and an entire Wednesday. I mean, this is going to change my life.
And honestly, it's not just a Wednesday.
No.
Because
it's all the work during the week.
Well, it's all the work during the week. Yeah, you have to keep an eye on all the stories that are going on, all the smaller stories, all the inside tracks, all the alternate news feeds, the left-leaning sites, the right-leaning sites. I mean, you have to cover every single base, and we've always done that just because we wanted to be thorough and complete in what we try to talk about. And so, but personally, at the end of the day, even if you're not a Patreon, thank you. Thank you for even considering us and listening to us, being there with us. It's something to me that, I've been able to make relationships with people through this show that I will take with me. And I really do appreciate it immensely.
Yeah, me too. Same. That is an interesting thing to be able to say. But it is 100% true. I also, again, want to encourage you to suggest the podcasts that you would like to recommend to folks, because I'd like to subscribe too, because now I get to listen and witness the news with you. And that is something that is blowing my mind still. So I'd love to hear those. And if you'd like to join us for our final episode next week, jblive.tv, we'll do it on a Wednesday. You can get it converted to your local time at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. The pre-show usually starts somewhere around 3:30. Then the YouTube stream usually fires up closer to 4. So yeah, join us for the last live Unfilter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. You ready?
Yes. Mommy needs a joint.
Mommy.
She sure does. She sure does. And there is some investing going on. We've been almost every week covering this now.
Our next guest is investing in the cannabis industry, which is becoming mainstream. Greg Smith is with us. He's the founder of Evolution Corporate Advisors. Greg, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Stuart. Thank you for having me.
You actually are bringing credibility and legitimacy to the marijuana industry. That's what you're doing.
I am trying. I am trying to find interesting, disruptive companies that I think are going to legitimize the industry and really be mainstream in the years to come.
So this guy's going around in VC in different cannabis companies, getting them off the ground, getting some money in their pockets. It's really interesting to see different people that are jumping in with big pockets, which is an indication that research has been done and things are going in the right direction. There is a funny story that it's not funny as in what happened, but it's funny in that you can't stop pot.
In the past hour, we've learned Polkton police arrested a correctional officer at Brown Creek. Travis Hubbard is accused of trying to give marijuana to an inmate. They say he was not able to pass through the electronic security devices at the correctional institution, and that's where officers were called in. Police say Hubbard tried to leave but was stopped. Officers searched his vehicle and say they found marijuana packaged for an inmate.
Does that mean up the butt? It's like in a tube shape? What does that mean exactly? I find it fascinating how drugs are rampant and available in prisons. Especially what's crazy is a lot of the drugs that are available are drugs that get people in prisons to begin with. It's really amazing how an institution that is designed to incarcerate people and punish them and lock them out from the outside world is still incapable of preventing drugs from coming in. Now, they got it in that case, but not all of them. Now, this last high note story I like covering simply because it's demonstrative of the snowball effect. This is where the pot policy always starts.
Manhattan DA's new policy not to prosecute low-level marijuana cases goes into effect today. That means people will not be arrested for smoking marijuana in public or possessing small amounts, but arrests will be made in cases where the drug is being sold or if it poses a threat to public safety. The Brooklyn DA's office stopped prosecuting low-level marijuana cases back in 2014.
So just like it happened here in Seattle and in Denver, they deprioritize that first, then comes the recreational laws. That has been one of the fascinating stories to watch over the history of this show. And if you remember, we covered it from the very beginning.
Yep, episode number 1.
Oh!
Episode 1.
Oh, man, that's crazy. Crazy to watch that. And now it's big business with VC funds coming in to back the disrupting cannabis industries.
It's come full circle. And, it feels 4 or 5 years ago when we talked about this, we would not have even predicted this. And here we are.
Mr. Chase, tell people where they can get more Chase in their face throughout the week.
I would appreciate if you do the Twitter thing at Nunes, Nunes. If you don't do the Twitter thing and you like to do the Discord thing, ggtvdiscord.com. Use that URL.
All right.
You can come chat with me. I love to engage on gaming and tech topics. And by the way, some pinball broadcasting, 1080p, high def is coming into your
60
future.
frames?
At 60, yes.
Oh, all right.
What about you, Chris?
Me?
Where can people keep up with you?
Why not at Chris LAS? That's a good way to get a hold of me, too. And you can also follow the whole network at Jupiter Signal. Links for additional news stories at unfilter.show/289. That's where you can also download the MP3. And you can... I guess you could subscribe. That was sort of on autopilot.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? Then you could download the back catalog and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So still subscribe. It still has a value.
That's true.
Now, the show's not over yet. The overtime is coming up. Don't believe it. It's fake news. Show's not over yet. If you want to stick around.
No collusion.
Your dessert is coming up. Your meat and potatoes is officially over. All right? Very good?
Yeah, that's right, man.
All right. All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for tuning this week's episode of the Unfiltered program. And keep one thing in mind. The show may be coming to an end, but it's not over just yet. No. We'll be back for one more time next week.